what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And we are live. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. And you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinthemorning.com. What's it called, Philly Chris?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
How about you, Russ? You know?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
Richard, you've been with us how many times already? You know what it's called.
It's called MikeGinthemorning.com.
That's right. Liberty, you there?
And MikeGinthemorning.com.
I want all of the Mike G in the Morning family to check out MikeGinthemorning.com. You can check out our previous episodes. You can go on over to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and click that little bell. Apparently, just the subscription alone doesn't mean anything. So click that little bell so it lets you know. And we also have a new feature where we've got a text reminder service. So if you want to be reminded about the Mike G in the Morning program, whether it's the regular episodes each week or special events like we did last week at Oaks with Richard S. Roberts Jr., as well as David Coates of Elite Tactical Armory. You like my hat, right? Elite Tactical Armory, PACommercialarmory.com. But check on out MikeGinthemorning.com. You can find all of that stuff there, and you can let us know if you want to be on that text reminder chain. Just write in at the contact us portion of MikeGinthemorning.com. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your barber, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell your local dog catcher, and anybody who'll listen to check out MikeGinthemorning.com. I also want to remind our listeners about the powerhouse lineup we've got here at the Freedom Station. We've got Ben Shapiro bringing you the Ben Shapiro Show weekdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Scott Adams coming at you with the Scott Adams Show weekdays from 9 a.m. right until noon. We want to welcome to the Freedom Station family the one and only Dan Bongino, bringing you the Dan Bongino Show weekdays from noon right until Ben Shapiro. And finally, we've got Michael Knowles bringing the Michael Knowles Show weekdays from 5 to 6 p.m. So don't forget to tune in and show him some love. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hit it, Russ.
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
You know, I do want to say this. We've got the entire gang here. That was a lot of fun over at the Oaks Show last week, wasn't it?
I had a good time.
Yeah, I had a great time. It was
Define
great
fun.
actually being in the same area. It was great.
Yeah, wasn't it? I think we had a lot of fun. You know what would have made it even better? Is
If we
it
showed
were
up
2
earlier?
hours long. If it had begun at
Would've
the
been twice as
scheduled
much fun,
time,
yeah. Mhm.
right? And we weren't there doing the show while they were closing up the show at the end, kicking us out.
That
I
sounds
will
fun.
say this, though. So you want to talk gun-related stuff. Rich, did you see all of those people who had to stay behind while we were packing up and getting everything out of there? The people who were still there maybe an hour after the show was closed, waiting for their PICS check to go through?
Yeah. Well, that's been a theme for quite some time now. That it used to be. I remember when I bought my first weapon, it was about 6 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, about 6 minutes. Bought it at the Army Navy store in Grape Street in Allentown. They were like, "What's your information?" You went on the phone, got on the phone, stood there for about 8 minutes, came back, said, "You're good to go. Here you go. Have a nice day." Now it's hours at best. Yeah.
Sit down, and we'll be right back over in about a month.
Trying to say the government's not efficient, Mike?
Rich, I will say that I'm surprised that you don't get snagged up because your name isn't exactly Giramita, right? Rich Roberts.
Right. Got a kind of common name. No, I've never gotten snagged up, never held up anytime. So there's nothing in my background to worry about.
I know not yours, knucklehead.
Hey.
I'm
Your
thinking
name
some
or-
other Rich Roberts in Michigan or something's got a warrant out for his arrest.
That's
The reason why I ding on certain things is there's a guy, it's not even the same last name, but he's got the same few first letters of my last name, who's got something on him somewhere. Must be, because it always takes a little bit longer. So with a name like Richard Roberts, I mean, that's a name like John Smith or Juan Perez, where you'll get a lot of people who have, maybe somebody's got something somewhere and, we need to look into this a little bit longer, make sure it's not this guy. But they are taking a long
One of
time for
Mike's
just about
quote,
everything now.
unquote, friends have a problem. I got
And
it. You give me
somebody-
that. Hypothetically speaking, if I had,
yeah.
you know, Mike, it's okay.
How many clients call our office and they're like, oh, well, I got this friend. I got this friend who's got this thing going on. Yeah, I've heard
Yes.
about this friend before.
Friends are always a problem, it seems like.
Yeah. But that was a lot of fun over at the Oak Show. We're talking about doing a program on location over at Elite Tactical Armory with David Coates. So we'll be scheduling that right there in the Lehigh Valley. So that'll be great. All of our listeners, our audience members should look forward to that. And if you've got anything else that you're interested in hearing about, anything on location, just let us know. I mean, we had a great time last week. I'm looking forward to doing it again, getting in the same room, being out at these locations, having random people show up like John from New York, right? What'd you think of that guy,
Yeah.
Rich Roberts?
He was interesting.
He showed up and he threw at you the obscure case law, right? We figured we were going to get
did.
something gun related. He's like, gun related, ask away, Try
Right.
give us your best shot. And he's like, well, how about this reapportionment case from the 1960s? You're like, what?
I was like, I don't know. He was making reference in the Constitution. They talk about it. It used to be you had to have one representative for every 10,000 people. Obviously, that has gone away because if we did one rep for every 10,000 persons, the Capitol building would be the entire District of Columbia, the building
Right.
itself. So
Right.
Yes.
I think that's what he was kind of getting at, that we need larger body in Congress because each person now represents almost 1 million people.
Oh, and that they can't properly,
Right. I think that was the
serve
issue trying to get at.
that many
Right.
people. Yeah. Maybe 1 per 10,000 isn't exactly practical. It's with 300. How many people we have in the United States? I don't want to get it wrong.
It's over 300 million. They
Over
just released the
300 million,
census
right?
data, so we should probably know that.
Didn't Biden say we lost like 300 million to gun violence at one point? Do you remember that?
I
Something
think
like
he also
that.
said
Remember that.
350 billion are vaccinated too.
Very good. Very good. So, want to talk today about a few cases that have come on down. I want to thank everybody who did tune in last week at the Oak Show. I want to thank the Oak Show and the staff themselves for how helpful they were. They were very accommodating for us, brought us right on in, had a place set up for us. Anything we needed, we just had to let them know, and they're right there for us. So we do hope that everybody patronizes them. Of course, it's hard not to, though, right? You say the Oak Show is coming to town, Eagle Arms. Not a lot of people saying, you got to twist my arm to get over there. But make sure you keep an eye on when it is, because things have become more sporadic with the pandemic and everything. So check out Eagle Arms. And I do want everybody to participate in that toy drive they're doing. I'd say that's for a good cause. Don't you think, Philly Chris?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always a good cause.
Yeah.
Check it out.
And Rich, you come from a household with a veteran father. And Toys for Tots, is that something that you've seen around
Every
year?
year.
Every year.
Every year at Ziegler Law, they do Christmas Chamber of Commerce events where they do Toys for Tots, and I always bring something every year. Because Toys for Tots is a military thing. It's Marine Corps. So, of course, that's what my father served in. So that's a big deal for me.
Awesome.
And,
Yeah.
helping disadvantaged children, I think Mike can relate to this, coming from the background that we do, which wasn't the most, we'll say, high-class upbringing. I think we're low class, working class. So we understand struggles a lot of those families and can relate because we knew families like that.
Right.
We were families ourselves, and the fact that we have come in our lives to some measure of success, it's always good to give back to those people because I understand the struggles that they're there and I can empathize with them.
I could just see DG. I don't have the comments up right now, but that was a very, very kind thing that you just said. And I can see her saying, Rich is being humble for the first time his entire life, right? Very uncharacteristic of Richard S. Roberts with the humility over here. No,
I don't know if it's humility, but I think what she would say is probably make a joke because she likes busting my chops. But also say that I always try to give back. I always do. And that's just something that is always forefront in my mind. Mike's the same way. We've collaborated on things. We give back as much as we can. And I think it just relates from that we have been there and helping hands. We've all gotten that opportunity. If I have the opportunity to give back and help somebody, it's something that I'm always going to do.
Absolutely. Maybe would you guys be interested in setting something up where we really make a big deal about going back to the next show and doing a live stream and having it so people, maybe there's some kind of incentive we could do for people who show up with toys and be a part of the show or something like that?
I would volunteer for that in a second. I would.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's just me. I don't know about the rest of the crew, but I would volunteer for that.
Chris is like, no, I'm not coming.
Yeah, Chris is the Grinch. That's all right.
Chris is the
okay.
Grinch. He
Forget
looks
about
like
it. I
Santa
already
Claus,
did that.
acts
I
like
did
the
that.
Grinch. How about you, Russ? Russ is like, no toys for nobody. Russ is
Huh?
awesome.
What are we doing?
Jeremy Miller says 375 million in the last census. So that was that's some good information over there. We need that audience participation. DG says, good job, gentlemen. She's not busting your chops yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's early.
She said kids need a good Christmas this year. Absolutely. So let's work on that. We'll work on setting something up where we have some kind of a special event. And DG says, who will dress up as Santa? I think DG should dress up as Santa. What do you think? Are you
There we go.
volunteering, DG? Is DG volunteering to be Santa Claus this year?
I'm getting my beard ready for it, just in
You
case.
got the beard.
That's
My
what it's
wife
for.
would say- My wife would say to midsection, I'm going to be Santa by the time Christmas rolls around.
So you're each preparing in different ways.
Each
Chris is growing the
preparing.
beard. Rich is growing the belly.
Let's
I don't know. Maybe I'll
have a
have to.
competition to see who can do the, get the closest to Santa Claus by then.
Who can be
I'll
more
get the
Santa?
costume.
Really, Chris,
Okay.
I can't. You guys got that transformation of Rich from dress shirt to polo shirt. I can't do facial hair. I can't do that.
It's a new thing for me.
DG said the suit will be a little big. I'm saying I'm nominating DG.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. I'm putting it in there. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Chris, we mentioned that one time the local Patriots over at Welsh Automotive in Exton just opened a new location over in Westchester. An interesting little aside, not much to the story, but I was over there, and there was a guy standing in front of me online saying that he heard about them, didn't say from where, but he was wearing a Constitution shirt.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was just standing behind the guy minding my own business.
That's awesome.
Very good. That may be a little of us at work over there.
Yeah.
It's good to see that people who believe in our Constitution are patronizing Patriot businesses.
Yeah, it's
So
important.
little
right
shout out to Welsh Automotive. DG says, are we still allowed to give kids toy guns? Well, you better be.
now. I don't
Better
know.
be. If they're getting
I
toys
don't
from
know.
the Mike G in the Morning program, that better be okay. But what we should do is include some kind of a packet with the rules of safety. What do you think, Rich Roberts?
I agree with that. Rules of safety are important.
Yeah.
I think for the parents, the most important safety rule is when they're young, inaccessibility. I will always preach that.
All right. Maybe give the Eddie Eagle book along with that or something like that and teach
There
these
you go.
kids. I just think that's interesting, especially DG says my kids are well beyond that Santa stage. I nominate Russ. Oh, how great, how classic would that be? Russ as Santa Claus. Russ,
I like
can we
that
get you in a
idea.
Santa suit? What do you think?
I don't think I'm jolly enough.
Yeah, that would be like if Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh played Santa.
That's right. It might be better, actually.
No, I don't know. I don't know if Eeyore is the right one, but maybe Rabbit. If Rabbit, because Eeyore's more depressed. He's not
Okay.
really grumpy. I'm
Grumpy?
not depressed.
Oscar the Grouch. What about Oscar the Grouch?
Eh,
I live in a trash can.
You
That
could
was the
give
first one that
Cole
came
out
to my
first.
mind was having Russ play Santa. So Russ, you want to go shopping? I'll take you shopping.
Jeremy says I second that. We've got 2 votes for
There we
Russell
go,
playing
there we
Santa
go.
Claus.
Big grouchy claws.
So, the way these works, it's a motion in a second. Now we got to vote on it to see.
All in favor
can
for
be Santa.
Russell playing Santa Claus, say aye.
Aye.
You guys don't get to
Any-
vote.
Anybody say
Russ.
nay? All the nays? The
We're
ayes
not
have
allowed
it.
to vote, Russ?
Have it?
Gavel, the ayes have it.
Aye.
Well, you don't have
We
a
have a
gavel,
quorum.
so it doesn't matter.
DG says it's for the kids, Russ. So if you don't dress up like Santa Claus, you
I
just
hope
don't
it's
like
for
kids.
the kids.
You don't care about these poor kids. So we've got to really ramp this up for the toy drive. DG says aye. Well, all kinds of people saying aye. KPK
yeah.
Crypto. And we've got to get in touch
I
with
don't know who that
KPK
is.
Crypto at some point. If you don't mind, message into the website, MikeGinthemorning.com. We'd love to get you on to talk a little bit about crypto. Chris and I have spoken about it a little bit on the air. It would be great to have some insight from somebody who's got some experience with it.
What do you actually?
Ho, ho,
Jeremy
ho.
says he'd be the Santa from a Christmas
Yeah,
store. He kicks the kid in the face on the way down.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
So think about all the different depictions of Santa Claus throughout all of those movies, right? You've got the one from the Christmas Store. You've got one from Home Alone where the guy is on his way out into his beater car and he gives him the Tic Tacs and says, "Don't spoil your dinner," right?
Right,
Which one would that?
Yeah.
That would be Philly Chris, right?
There we go.
That Santa Claus would be Philly Chris. Which one would Rich Roberts be? What would be a good suited Santa Claus for Rich Roberts? Do we have one? Do you think? What about Bad Santa?
I think
Not
you'd be a
bad
legitimate
Bad
nice
Santa?
one. Yeah.
Rich is a
I
family
like
man.
Christmas.
Get the
Listen,
nice one at the
I'm
mall.
not always jolly. I like Christmas. You see my house. We're decked out. I
Oh
look
yeah.
like a Christmas story. Not a Christmas story. What's the National Lampoon?
Oh.
I do it. Christmas is the one holiday I really go, like, the house is decorated. I got a little Tinseltown, little miniature village.
Nice.
There's the train around the tree. Yeah, I go crazy.
Awesome.
Rich is Clark Griswold then. Maybe.
There we
No,
maybe
yeah,
that's
yeah, I'll do that.
Well, we all gotta show up dressed up in character. You gotta come like Clark Griswold and.
Should I
Russ
change
is
his
gonna-
name to Clark?
What's
We do a
that?
live show from in front of my house.
Why not? Hey, we're into all those kinds of things. There are no rules around here.
We can
As you've quickly found out, Rich, there's no rules around here. The inmates are running the asylum around
The
here.
inmates run the asylum.
Pretty much.
Who's
So-
Uncle Eddie?
I've seen that. Is that like Delaware County from this week?
Oh, Delaware County from this week. Yeah, that
Tell us
was
more. Tell us more.
That was a clown show.
it was a clown show. A clown show is a good way to describe it. There's another word that you might use that you can't use on the air dealing with a show, right? You know that term that has show involved, but you can't use
Yeah,
that on
I
the
know
air.
what
That's
you're
one way.
talking
But I
about.
like clown show. Clown show works.
It's a clown show.
All right. What do you think we can talk about that? Because I think it's interesting. We're going to be talking about constitutional rights today, and I think part of it has to do with the preliminary arraignment, right? I was reading
Dude,
through that case you
fact
sent
that-
me.
Right. I think one of the things about that we could talk about the particular case is the fact that our client, who Mike and I represent, we weren't allowed and did not participate in preliminary arraignment. Was the first appearance before the court where bail is initially set. And when we finally called back, they go, "We didn't know he was represented." So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He had
What?
every idea. The detective had it. We talked to the detective that morning. And then Mike goes, "Well, he's on the docket sheet," because I made sure that my staff entered my appearance that morning immediately, just so we would avoid that very situation. And then the
Crazy.
best part, Mike goes, "Well, I didn't really look at the docket sheet." Well, you updated the docket sheet, so you
Yeah.
had to look at it. It's like, you missed it?
Oh, he updated it with their eyes closed.
Yeah, and I think that's an issue, and you have to be vigilant. I
First
mean,
they tried to put it, we don't have that information. Like, it's on the docket sheet. Everybody's got that information.
right?
Has it
He's like,
happened
"We didn't
before?
have it."
Has it happened before?
It has, unfortunately, but
Okay.
usually they correct it.
Hmm.
This was very like, "Well, sorry," and we're like, well, "Wait a minute, that's not the way we." What do you mean, sorry?
Sorry.
I mean, fortunately, the bail was at a position where our client got out, which started the clown show, which ended
Okay.
the clown show because he posted bail. Nobody had an idea what to do. apparently Delaware County now has an online system where you can go online and post bail. And yeah, the prison was there. They were about to transport him. The prison was like, "We're not taking him." He posted bail, and the police were like, "Well, what do we do?" And I was like, "Well, we release him." And then they called the prison. The prison sent him over paperwork, and they were like, "We don't believe that paperwork." I said, "What? It come from me? I didn't send it to you. It's not written in crayon. What are you talking about?"
I don't believe it.
So I give
I
a
am
shout
12.
out to my paralegal Rose. She was working late that day and made sure our client got out and was released. So I mean, it was just. I think what it goes to is it's tough, even to make sure your rights are followed, and it's important to keep the pressure on to make sure the result gets to where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to make sure your attorney follows it all the way through.
Isn't there like a hotline?
A
or
lot of
something?
people would have given up in that situation, and you didn't even tell half the story because this all starts.
There's some attorney-client privilege. I can't get into all of it, but I mean, we dropped their client off at 8:30 that morning.
Right, but let's explain why though, Rich. Because we made contact over the weekend, right? They tell us bring him in Monday morning, 8:30 in the morning. We're there. They tell us we can't go in because of COVID. I think that's important, that we were not allowed into the building because of that. And they told us we will call you when they're prepared for the preliminary arraignment, which is where explain to them what preliminary arraignment is for those of our listeners who might not understand.
Preliminary arraignment, after you're charged with an offense, you're brought before an MDJ typically, and that's your first appearance. You're told of your charges, and the judge sets bail. That's literally what a preliminary arraignment is. Once they set bail, if you can post bail, you post bail and you go home. If you can't, they commit you to the county prison where the crime occurs. Now, I understood, Mike and I both understood the COVID restrictions. As soon as we left, I called the judge who was going to do the preliminary arraignment, said, "Hey, here's my number. I'm representing this guy." We represented our client, said, "No problem," took my name, took my number, said, "We're waiting on the information from the police department. As soon as we get it, we'll get them in front." I was like, "You want to appear before video?" I was like, "Video? You want to give me a call just so I can make my client's position known? I can have an argument after bail interview. There's a recommendation based on the charges and history and things like that." And she said, "No problem." And then apparently later on, it was at 1:00. I had another court appearance. I called Mike. Mike said, "I got it." Mike calls in to let him know that, "Hey, I'm in court for the next period of time. If arraignment happens, call me. I'm co-counsel." And they told Mike, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
It's like, "You
Sounds about
sure?"
right.
I just spoke to him. He said that he spoke to you, and you said that you'd be happy to call him. And you were even saying they were so nice on the phone to me. The person I got was not nice to me.
No, she was real nice. She's like, "What's your name? What's your number?" I said, "Use my cell phone. I don't know how often." She said, "No problem. I don't know when it's going to be. We got a series, people who come in, late over the weekend." And I understand it's a busy. And we were good. Apparently, Mike did not get the same treatment.
I didn't get the same treatment. And then, ultimately, even though I wanted to make sure that regardless of who was dropping the ball over there, that we would get that call one way or the other. So I left my contact information and the name of the client, who they said they had no idea who they were. But either way, I figured if I leave all the information, at some point, something's going to click. And apparently it didn't, and we had some words with them about that. When you're talking about the setting of bail and everything like that, that's an important stage because that's going to dictate ultimately whether the client comes home in the meantime. Sometimes that's very important. I mean, on rare occasions, I've had really, really lengthy bail hearings. I had one in Philadelphia that sticks out. It was about 25 minutes long, which is very unusual for that type of a hearing. And strange case, I think I told you about it, Chris, where ultimately the judge reduced, but not to an amount that the client's family could afford. And I knew that was going to be the case, no matter how hard we fought and everything like that. And once he said it was going to be this amount, I'm like, well, we got a reduction, but they're not going to be able to afford that. And walking out of the courtroom, the family's thanking me and everything like that. So we ended up leaving the courtroom. I walked them out. They got into the elevator, and for whatever reason, I decided to go downstairs, go back into the courtroom rather, and just sit there, gather my stuff. And the judge finishes the case after us, And he goes, I see that counsel for the previous matter is still in court, and I've been thinking about this, and I changed my mind. I'm going to change bail to unsecured.
Hmm.
So I grabbed my stuff. He said, "Are you okay with that?" I said, "No, I didn't say that. No,
Your
I
Honor,
wanted to
no."
stay in jail." I stood up. I said, "Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor." And I walked the heck out of that courtroom so he couldn't change his mind. And for whatever reason, I decided to go back in and sit down for a minute, just gather my stuff and my thoughts before I left. Had I not done that, he wouldn't have gotten
Wow.
out. I also think about that. I don't know if you even remember this, Rich. I'm sure you do. But this is going back to years and years ago. It just reminds me of how old we are, Rich. But at this beginning of our career, and we got put on this case. I don't remember the reason, but we got put on this case where a guy was getting turned in for some serious stuff. Very serious gun charges and everything. And we got put on it immediately to handle the bail and the prelim. I was not out on my own at the time. And we get there, and you and I are talking about the argument we're going to make about the bail. And at first, when we see this, we're like, "Ooh, bail's going to be tough on this one. These are some pretty serious accusations." And then the more we get into it, the more we're like, "All right, yeah, we're going to win this thing. Bail's not to punish. It's only flight risk and danger to the community." And we get in there, and we're like, "We're going to win this thing. We're going to get this guy out." We get in there, and the judge's like, "Yeah, $1 million straight bail." Boom. $1 million.
Like, well, could have been worse.
Yeah, could have been a bajillion
Right.
zillion dollars.
Can always be worse. Wow.
Okay, what do we got over here? I don't want to get behind on the comments. Jeremy Miller, did that MDJ also have a sign not to wear pajamas to court? Rich, you remember that place that had the
I
the
do. It was it's
Judge
Columbia
Long, Judge Long in Columbia County, right?
Right.
We've been
Don't
down there
wear
a few times this
pajamas.
year.
I didn't think you actually needed a sign.
Yeah, the sign.
I'll tell you something funny about not wearing pajamas to court. So my first semester of law school, I clerked for a judge, a summer internship for a judge in Northampton County. It's a retired judge. They used to do miscellaneous court on Friday. Now they do it on Wednesdays. Basically, custody hearing. Do you got a suppression motion, status anything? It's like a grab bag. Everybody shows up in courtroom 1. They don't do it the same way now with the pandemic. You get like 300 cases. They get assigned, you go out. So us as clerks used to stand on the second floor and look down and watch the people walk in and what they were wearing and try to pick out who was going to jail.
Wow.
Like, shorts and a wife beater. Yep, he's going to jail.
He's going to jail.
It just amazes me. And I have stories of clients who've done silly things. It just amazes me that people don't take going to court serious enough. Now, I don't expect everybody to wear a nice suit and tie when they show up, but you should probably wear khakis and a button-down shirt. It is
Right.
Court. You show the respect for the court system and you show up dressed appropriately. And I think clients don't sometimes realize that can make a big difference.
You want
it makes a
every
big
advantage you could possibly get when you're in that situation. You don't need to leave anything on the table in those situations. So, absolutely. I had a case in Northampton once. It's funny you mentioned that, where we were sitting there, and maybe it's just the way people dress showing up to court in Northampton in particular. But we were sitting there for my client's case, and he's wearing a nice suit and a tie and everything like that. And this guy walks in like sweatpants and a t-shirt and, acting like he owns the place and everything. And my client turns to me and says something like, "Mike, if I ever thought about showing up to court dressed like that, I'd be afraid that you would beat the hell out of me in front of everybody."
And that's a good point, because I would agree. I'd be like, what are you wearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You'd be a
I
good
have
attorney at that point. Yeah.
On a funny note, I took a case to trial once. It was a DUI case. The guy showed up to trial in a Budweiser T-shirt.
Oh, nice. That's always
Wow.
good.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I made him go turn the shirt inside out.
Yeah, that's the least you can do is turn it inside out and with
Oh,
that
boy.
one, right?
Well,
That's
but like
that's
I
the
said,
least you
I
can do.
understand the cost of the suit and that, but you at least got to put on a button-down shirt and at least a nice pair of jeans and some shoes. I mean, you have to show up respect, and I mean, appearance, impression means something, especially if it's a trial or even emotion or even a status conference or a bail.
Is that really an excuse, Rich? I don't buy that, because I've been in situations where I only got a few bucks to my name. I was still able to go to the Salvation Army or whatever and buy a jacket for $5. You know,
I mean, you gotta show presentable, because I mean, it especially in the cases that we do, it's a lot of criminal work, some firearms restoration, Second Amendment stuff. You need to make an impression to that judge, and I think the way you present yourself is very important. It is. It's very important.
so somebody says, I lost it. It went back. Okay. KPK Crypto says Ronald Reagan once said, some of the worst words you can hear are I'm from the government and I'm here to help. And Rusty says, I'm from the Wuhan lab and I'm here to help. Those are the worst words you can hear.
Yeah, that might be worse. Yeah.
That's pretty
Just
good.
a little gain of function research. That's all.
So as far as the whole suit situation goes, Rich, have you ever had a client, even if I had a client legitimately come to me and say, hey, you know, I want to be dressed the right way. I don't have $5. Well, we don't really run this. We don't have $5. Let's just say that's what they said. I don't have any money to get a jacket, period. Even after I gave them the advice to go to try this place, try that place, everything like that. I've had cases where I've given somebody a jacket to, loaned them a jacket to wear for the proceeding. You know,
I've done that. I mean, it's important.
Yeah.
It's important. I've definitely given jackets to people and have them wear it. Here, just wear it. It's okay. You don't have to wear it. You give it to me on the way out. It's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to be presentable. It's important. You got to show the respect to the court, respect to the judge. That's why we stand up when we address the court. It's about decorum and it's about respect. And the rules in there are important. And the rules are there for a reason, and judges especially expect you to follow those rules.
Yeah, whether or not you agree with them and think they're good or bad or anything, listen, that's what we're dealing with. Do you want a good outcome to your case or not? Do you want the best outcome for your case or not? If so, you're going to follow my advice and you're going to take every advantage you could possibly get. You're going to say, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor. That's the way you're going to respond to these sorts of things. Listen, I don't like wearing this stuff any more than anybody else. Rich will tell you how quickly I take my tie off after we get out of court. I mean, yesterday we were walking through the parking lot while I was taking it off. Rich took his off. Did you take it off when you got into the car? Because you took it off earlier than usual. You were like, man, Mike's having a bad influence on me.
I did say that. Oh, I'm having a bad day. Got my tie off already. That was yesterday.
Well, that wasn't a bad day. That was a good day. It was just very hot.
That was a good day, except the judge's chambers, the air conditioner was broken. The judge walks out in a polo shirt and like some shorts. I was like, what's going on with this guy? And he's like, air conditioner's busted. And I went, well, that's interesting. I thought when I first woke up, I was like, it's kind of warm, but maybe the judge just doesn't like being too cold. No, and then once we said that, he's like, no.
And he wasn't happy about it either. He was calling like a Joe Pesci, right?
Right, he was about to be in contempt of court. Somebody was getting a fine that day if he didn't come and fix that air conditioner.
You do not want a grumpy judge.
No,
he was grumpy because of that, but he wasn't taking it out on us. He actually told us, hey, if you guys want to, take off your jacket, take off your tie, that's fine with me. Do what you got to do because this is ridiculous. I like that judge. I'll go out there and say it. I do like that judge. I think
very
he's fair and very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though he's a former cop, I don't take that out to him. But he's he's fair and reasonable. He's thrown out cases, which is sometimes tough for someone to do. He's like, there's not enough evidence here. Get out of here. Come back when you got something real.
Yeah, I like that. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. We've got a couple of comments. SM Durso, you know what they say, dress for success. Absolutely. Rusty Shackelford, court should be treated like an interview or a date. Dress nicely and make a good impression. I like that interview date. I used to tell people, like you're going to church on Easter or something like that. That might be a good thing. KPK agreed, Rusty. All right. So let's get in. While we're on this topic, we're talking about criminal law stuff and your rights and everything like that. Why don't we get into this case, the Rawls case that you brought to my attention? You thought it would be good for our listeners to hear about this. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what happened and the background and everything?
Sure. So the Rawls case was decided by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on Tuesday. The situation is there's a gentleman who's being investigated, gentleman being used loosely, investigated for a double homicide during a home invasion. So there's an investigation. They come to this guy as a person of interest. The police officers do an investigation, interview witnesses. They charge Mr. Rawls with 2 counts of homicide, conspiracy, some other things. Okay. So apparently he saw this investigation on the news and thought it would be wise and important to go to the police station to address these allegations that he has seen against him and put them to bed. So he walks into the police station, asks to seek the detective. He has no idea he's been charged already, no idea the status of the investigation. The police, of course, were happy to talk to him. They advised him of his Miranda rights, that he had the right to an attorney. Anything he said will be used against him in a court of law. He waived those rights and began to answer questions. The police never told him that he was already charged, that no matter what he said, those charges weren't going away. They didn't affirmatively lie to him, but they didn't say. He makes some incriminating statements. That was not a surprise to anybody on this radio program or listening. He's eventually charged with double homicide. He's convicted of double homicide and sentenced to life in prison. On appeal, he says, wait, they never told me I was charged. Now, the interesting legal aspect in this is Miranda is actually a Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination. What he raised is after you're charged, your Sixth Amendment right to counsel kicks in. And the continued questioning after he was charged formally with a crime triggered the Sixth Amendment, and he was representing himself at that point, which Miranda warnings didn't adequately warn him about. They needed to tell him he's charged, etc. The court said, sorry, young man, Miranda warnings sufficiently warned you of your rights, sufficiently warned you of what would happen if you decided to take it upon yourself to speak to the police, and you effectively waived your Sixth Amendment right. The police have absolutely no obligation to tell you that you were charged. The police actually have no obligation to tell you the truth or any of that. And your willingness to walk in there and try to, quote, set the record straight, waive your rights, and that statement was allowed in. The trial court made the right decision, and Mr. Rawls will never see the outside of a prison cell again.
Rich, there's 2 things that come to mind when we're going through this. Number 1 is that I'm not surprised that the court landed this way. But number 2 is that I'm also not surprised that the average person wouldn't know this or wouldn't think about this. Do you agree?
I agree. I don't think the average person would know the difference between the Fifth and Sixth Amendment right. It's a very fine line. We go back to our previous discussion on a preliminary arraignment. You know, clients have a right to counsel at a preliminary arraignment because you're charged. It's a significant event. It's the first event in court.
But do you think that there's certainly a gap between what people sense is maybe fair or the way things work and what the law actually says and how it's actually applied, right?
Well,
because you would think that an average person might say, oh, well, they can't do this without telling me that I've already been charged, right? Do you think an average person on the street, you ask them, can they do this without telling you that you've already been charged? Do you think the average person would say, no, they can't do that?
No, I find it shocking in conversation I've had with individuals and seminars that like Mike and I have given that police can lie to you, right? Police can go up, listen, we know it's you. You committed this crime. We've captured your DNA. There is DNA, was all over saying you did it. Have you collected no DNA? It's washed away in the river. There's no chance of it. You confess based on their lie that they did it. Is your confession thrown out because they lied to you? Courts have said absolutely not. They have no obligation to tell you the truth at all. They can blatantly lie to your face about what evidence or anything they want. It's a police tactic. That's a Supreme Court decision.
Wasn't there a movie where the police were trying something like that on Mark Wahlberg? I think it was like Four Brothers or something like that. They came over and they were like, we got your hair from the scene. And they're like, don't believe him. Somebody was getting scared. He's like, I don't believe him. They tried it over and over again.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's important for individuals to realize that they don't have to tell you the truth because, and they're allowed to. It's part of its police investigation techniques. That's why it's important when the police want to question you, whether it's a homicide investigation, a traffic ticket, a DUI, is to not talk to them.
Right.
Not talk to them, because there's nothing you can do in that situation that's going to help. There's literally nothing you can do. All you're going to do is hurt your case.
I'm going to show up and set the record straight. Now, how much does it hurt also that you have a situation like this where there are bad facts, and it's a situation where, you know, people hear about what happened to these poor people, and they say, well, surely we're not going to do this bad guy any favors, so they land a certain way, but that reasoning ends up affecting, you know, how many people down the line. Is that an issue?
Well, yeah, it's bad facts make bad law. So, although I have to be honest, based on the law, the way it sounds, I think this case is correctly decided. But considering he's charged and was convicted of killing 2 people during a home invasion, it's going to affect the way the things happen. Bad facts make bad law. Although I represented an individual, that's not always the case. One of the cases I argued before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, where the facts of the case is he tried to kill this young lady and actually stuffed her in a garbage can. But the Constitution won out in that case and knocked 20 years off his sentence. So, I mean, it's not always the case, but you never want to go into an appellate court with that. And the strategy in something like that from a defense attorney's perspective is we're going to talk about the law as much as possible, and we're not going to mention a single thing about the facts.
Yeah, well, that's certainly one way to go about it. You don't really have a choice in those situations, right? We lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, you don't really have a choice
Here.
sometimes. Sometimes that's all you
Yeah.
got. Now,
I mean, it's what you got. You just have to argue what's your best argument, and the facts are what the facts are. You have to try to find a way to avoid it. And in that case, I didn't even start with, like, this is what happened, judges. Yeah, I don't care. The jury wasn't instructed on this. This is the right result. All I'm talking about is the jury instructions.
it's
and,
crazy
you know-
that we get to this, though, because you're talking about, in the opinion they talk about, he was under arrest. He wasn't free to leave. They specifically told him that, told him they were investigating. He signed away his rights. He waived his rights orally and in writing. And then he's like, but wait, you didn't tell me that I was charged in the first place. And a lot of people would go to that place, but it's almost as an attorney when you're dealing with this, and maybe even some people who have been to our seminars and are familiar with this, they see all those steps along the way, like, what are you doing?
Well, it's important to know the law, and I think the average person needs to have a grip on what the law is. Because, granted, I hope nobody we know ever finds himself in a situation where they're involved in a home invasion. But there's far, quote, less serious cases
Sure.
where the average person can find themselves on the other side of police questioning, and they don't understand their rights. They don't understand what's going on, and it leads to trouble. And it's when.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I said it's good people end up in that situation. They're trying to do the right thing, and then all of a sudden what they say is twisted. It's taken out of context, and that's always the issue. And then we're left trying to explain why what they said isn't what it looks like, and that's never a place I want to be.
And District Attorney Association, this is in a footnote, one of the things that popped out, and the court only mentioned the footnote and dealt with other issues. It said, the District Attorneys Association argued that an accused Sixth Amendment right to counsel doesn't attach merely on account of the filing of criminal charges, but rather only arises upon a preliminary arraignment. So you are entitled to counsel at a preliminary arraignment, aren't you, Rich?
Yes, you are. That is the first, as they say in the case law, it is the first, quote, significant event in a criminal case. It's not the charging. It's the actual first time you're brought in front of a judge for some sort of argument. So it's the first significant event. It's whether you go home or not, basically, right? What kind of assurances do you have to give to the court that you're going to show up? You're not a danger to society. Do you go home, or do you spend the time in jail until your case is resolved?
You know, one of the other things they mentioned in the opinion, they talked about how, regarding the Sixth Amendment right to counsel, the court talked about how, under the jurisprudence of the Supreme Court, when the accused voluntarily waives his Miranda rights, he also waives his Sixth Amendment right to counsel. So you could waive both by waiving one, but you can't invoke both by waiving one.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's true. Well, I mean, if you look at the Miranda warnings, you have a right to remain silent, which is the Fifth Amendment right, and you have a right to an attorney. That's number 6. So
Tie
5 and 6
goes
are both
to
implicated.
tie goes to the Commonwealth, right? Like tie goes
Tie
to the
goes
runner.
to the
There you
That
have it.
doesn't seem fair, but it's all the more important. It shows you why it's all the more important to. I mean, shutting up is really the most important part of it all, right?
Right. It is. Just I'm not talking to you. Have a nice day. I want a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I mean, the
don't
other
give up
thing
on that.
individuals have to understand, and people who find themselves in this, it has to be unequivocal, direct, and on point. So, I think I may want a lawyer is not invoking your right to counsel. It's
Right.
I want a lawyer. Any equivocation when you're doing that is not an assertion of I want a lawyer.
Right.
And don't ask
So-
the police either.
Right. Well, why would you need a lawyer? Yeah, I know how that conversation goes. If you have nothing to hide, you wouldn't need a lawyer. Police are allowed
Right.
to tell you that. That's not
Yeah.
true in any stretch of the imagination, but
Right.
that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
So
think I
Yeah.
tell the story at the seminars I give. I had a case in Cumberland County. It was a self-defense case. It was in Cumberland County. Went to trial. Got an appropriate verdict. But when he was initially interviewed, he invoked his right to remain silent. He got counsel. Invoked his right to counsel. He hired myself to represent him. And then the trooper who was investigating the case, the detective from the state police, would call me. Hey, I want him coming to make a statement. I would of course say no. We have a little back and forth. So every Friday for the next 12 weeks, he'd call me every Friday and I'd make no. Here's my weekly call, my weekly no. So we go through it, does his testimony. I go, Trooper, I got to ask you something. He says, you call me every 12 weeks. He's like, yeah, it was kind of fun. I think it was. We laughed about it. And I said, if my guy would have came in, testified or gave a statement and talked to you the same way he just testified on the stand, would you have charged him, or could we have avoided this 18 months of craziness in part of my client and me in his defense? He said, listen, in my experience, and I'm just talking about me, but in my experience talking to fellow officers, there's two reasons the police want a statement. One, don't have enough evidence, want you to give them enough evidence to charge you. Two, they have enough evidence to charge you. They just want to make their case easier and put the gravy on top with something you confession. He's like, in this case, I obviously thought we had enough evidence to charge you. That's why we're here. I was just looking if it would be silly enough to come into the precinct and make a statement I could use against them in a court. And he said, plus, I would have had 18 months to poke holes in the story. And some of those holes that I opened up during his direct examination, they couldn't plug because they get 20 minutes instead of 18 months. So it's important to not tell your story. It's the one advantage, Michael, that we as defense attorneys have is I don't have to tell you my story. Like we say, it's self-defense. That's pretty obvious. But why is it self-defense? I don't have to tell you my story till we walk in the door that day for trial. Don't give them any more time to prepare for the case than you absolutely have to. And
go ahead.
And I was like, it's these things, those reasons are around to protect us, and you should use those to your advantage. Does it make you guilty or look guilty or whatever the case may be? It's just giving yourself the best chance to go home to your family, which needs to be your ultimate goal. Not looking this way or looking innocent or looking not guilty. It's, you know what, at the end of the day, I want to go home, I want to hug my kids, I want to see them graduate from college. That's my goal.
Sitchko was talking about the other day, and a lot of our listeners are familiar with him, Brian Sitchko out of Pittsburgh, one of the Law Shield attorneys out that way. We were talking about not necessarily invoking your rights and that being used against you, but all of the consciousness of guilt sort of instructions that you get, right? Concealment is evidence of consciousness of guilt, or flight, those sorts of things. He was saying, why don't you have an instruction for participation being consciousness of innocence, right? Because that's how they make it seem, right?
Well, they did say, what do we say about the quote? If I don't talk, I look guilty. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look guilty.
We've got in the comments over here, let's just replace police with social workers. Oh, that went up already.
Yeah.
Let's just replace police with social workers because they're such honest creatures too. And people laughed at that. Ultimately, we got a couple of people who are jumping on board with that. I think that really what it comes down to is that they were all part of the government, right?
I have a question.
I think
for you
what
guys.
it comes down to is you have to understand what their job is, right? A police officer's job is not to look out for you or your family or your future or your kids' college or your grandkids. His job is to investigate and put people in jail. That's literally what he gets paid to do. That's what he gets paid to do. So you have to understand that's what he's looking to do when he's investigating a crime, whether it be a homicide or a traffic ticket. He's looking to prosecute a crime. And I think when you look at it through that lens, you can look at it as the government. That's certainly part of it, but that's his job. And the social worker, I've run into too many of those. They think their job is to protect kids and tell parents how to raise their kids, which I have no problem with, which is we're not going to get into. We'd have a whole episode just on that. But my frustration with social workers and children is well known within the social worker community when I get a call. Yeah. Because I just have a problem with them thinking they're always right. And I think that goes, and Mike has certainly run into that with state police and police officers. Well, I wouldn't have pulled over if he wasn't guilty. I go, what are you talking about? Yeah. He's not. I mean, it's just, they have this commitment to doing what their job. Once you understand that's their job and you focus it in that way, I think it's it's easier to understand. Because their job is
our founding fathers recognize that we need to be protected from the government, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You look at our constitutional rights, you look at the Bill of Rights, there's protection from the government. And I think people lose sight of that sometimes if they've never been on the wrong end of that.
Right.
Because they see the purpose that you're talking about. Okay, well, they might see, they're cleaning up the streets and getting rid of the bad guys. Mm-hmm. And they don't understand that if you happen to be on the wrong end of that, even if you think you've done nothing wrong, you can easily end up in a cell for a long time, taking a long vacation.
Well, like any job, too, they have performance metrics where their superiors are looking at how many arrests they're making, how many convictions. I mean, they say they don't really have quotas, but they sort of have unofficial quotas, right? Isn't that true? Behind the scenes?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, they do. The close rate on cases and success rate on cases is something that every officer I've ever talked to is rated on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Close rates on cases is not just closing and arresting somebody. They look at your conviction rates, whether it's guilty plea or not guilty plea, because you got too many people walking away. There's something wrong with that.
Right.
So, I mean, but it's their job to get evidence and convict people. That's what a police officer does. And I don't think it doesn't make them a bad person.
Sure.
It just makes them, that's their job. And you have to understand that. And that's why those rights exist. They protect you from the government. They protect you from the police because they have a job to do. The founding fathers understand that this individual part of the government has a job to do. We need to make sure the people are protected. And here's how we protect them. But at the same time, you can waive those protections, as Mr. Rawls did, so he could explain the situation. And now he's explaining the situation in a cell till, he's no longer with us.
Right. And I don't know that people are going to disagree with that result, but there are lessons to be learned along the way. You can learn a lesson from a situation that you might never be in.
Correct. I mean, that's true. I'm not going to defend his actions. The jury listened to the evidence, convicted him of killing 2 people on a home invasion. I'm not defending Mr. Rawls' actions. I'm trying to teach where Mr. Rawls could have helped his case. When it ultimately got him, did he prove his innocence if he doesn't make their statements? I don't know, because they charged him well before he walked in on his own volition. So obviously it seems that they had enough evidence to charge Rawls with a crime, but he certainly didn't help his case or do his defense attorney any favors by making statements.
Yeah, so there are lessons to be learned that have nothing to do with the case in and of itself, right? Just because they haven't told you you've been charged doesn't mean that you got any special powers or anything like that. The best strategy is always to lawyer up and shut up. Shut up. The emphasis being on shut up, seemingly, when you look at the opinion, right? The emphasis being on no matter what you do not make any statements, period. They also talk about how he made contradictory statements along the way, which happens to people who aren't even lying, quote unquote. You think about somebody saying that's something contradictory or something that's not true, you think of lying. That could happen to somebody without intentionally misleading or anything like that.
Plus, it doesn't matter what you say. It matters what they write down, right?
Sometimes.
You're supposed to write it down.
Sometimes, that's true. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, I've run into that a little bit less. Body cameras, dash cameras, most things are videotaped. Which is
better now, yeah.
Which is good and bad.
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've run into that situation. The thing is, just you're going to shut up. Why doesn't he want to talk to me? Because he doesn't want to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like the way you look. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. He's got a right not to talk to you. I want him to clear some things up. I go, no, you want him to make a statement which incriminates himself, so you can add that to your police report when you charge him. That's what you want.
Right.
And then I've had the conversation with officers go, that's not really what I'm doing. I said, listen, I give the very old cliche. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Thank you, Gigi.
I think you worked the case with me where I did this. You had somebody, a police officer, asking somebody to come in and make a statement. And we're just trying to figure it all out. And I always pull the same thing with them. You know, if they come in and you find her to be credible, will you not file charges against them? And so it's like, oh, well, I can't do that. You know,
that was my favorite, one of my favorite Mike G lines. He goes, all right, we're going to stop this conversation. If she comes in, tells her side of the story, it's credible. You're like, I believe her. You agree not to charge? Well, I'm like, so then what am I coming in there
for? Yeah, right. You're like, I don't have the authority to do that. We're not making a statement. Knock it off.
Mm-hmm.
I've only had one guy. I had one guy in my career respond to that because I know what they're going to say. I'm saying it for a reason. But I only had one guy as trooper from up north. I said the same exact thing. You know, you agree not to charge her? He goes, oh, absolutely. Of course, yeah. If I find it to be credible, we'll put that in writing. And I was like, "What you talking about, Willis?"
Well, in that case, what do you do? I said, "I'll call you back." I was like, "Did you call back?" Never told me.
It was like 5 years ago. If he's listening, the statute of limitations is all right.
That's called the tried and true legal strategy of tuck tail and run, buddy.
Right. The only guy that figured out how to call your bluff on that one. You know?
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that one.
Have you guys? I have a question for you both. Have you noticed with the bail, reform and the things that we heard about here in Philly and around the country with the rioting and how people were basically getting bailed out? Supposedly Kamala was behind some of that or whatever. But have you guys seen any differences with the amounts or just people being let out on violent crimes as a result of what we've heard from the mainstream media about the reform in that area or not necessarily?
They must have forgot to remind the judges on our case.
Right. That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Here's my issue with, I hope I don't upset anybody who's listening on the bail reform. What you have to remember, and Pennsylvania case law is clear when it comes to bail, is individuals brought in front of a judge for bail. He has not been convicted. Right. He has not been tried in front of a jury. He's an innocent human being in front of the judge. Bail is designed to make sure the person shows up for court. That's literally it's designed to. There's some other factors that go into it, protection of the community. The problem you run into, and I think bail reform, it serves an important purpose. It puts some skin in the game to make sure people show up. They think twice about committing additional crimes or being violent. That's true. But what I hear about from some of the rhetoric is like, well, you're getting these criminals are being let out. And I just raise my hand. I go, person's not a criminal, hasn't been convicted. He got arrested.
Okay.
Being arrested is evidence of a crime. I got a whiteboard with about 80 some odd names on it who all got not guilty verdicts, who every single one of them was arrested and charged with a crime. Right. So I think that it's one of those things where it doesn't boil down to a soundbite that's good for certain agendas, both left and right. Right. I think they both are looking for the quick soundbite. We have to let everybody out. Prison's bad. No, we have to keep these criminals in jail. And it's a very nuanced answer. Like, there needs to be some skin in the game for individuals, especially the more violent the crime, the more likely they are to run, which is why bail is higher. Mm-hmm. That's the reason. When you get to, a felony where the maximum possible sentence is, 40 years in prison, they want to make sure that person who's facing 40 years shows up. So you need to put some more money. If the maximum possible punishment is 6 months, you go home. Right. Gotcha. You're who's running on a 6-month case. Right. So, I mean, that's the issue you run into when you have people on both sides where you should let everybody out. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. But people on the right who says you can't let these people out. They're charged with crimes, or he was charged with crime. He's let out. He committed another crime. Well, I mean, I get that. And that's a gut wrenching thing. But at the same time, you have to understand the guy hasn't been convicted under the Constitution. He's still innocent.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, that's a good way to explain
guilty.
That. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and
bail is not to. That's the thing that is hammering. It's not to bail is not to punish. I think that the problem becomes that gun owners always seem to get the worst end of this, because when you have a place like New Jersey where they ditch monetary bail, right? So they get rid of monetary bail. You're either in or you're out, depending on what's going on. Well, there was a gun involved in some way, shape, or form. You're in.
You're in.
And that's it. So we get the wrong end of that. Whereas, maybe they would have a fighting chance if there were some monetary value. And that's not what people are thinking about when they make these arguments. So the stuff that you're talking about with the rhetoric, they're not saying what I just said. They're not saying, oh, well, the gun owners are getting the wrong end of it because they're being kept inside just because there was a gun. He had a gun. Right?
Mike and I, how many times have we heard that in bail arguments? Well, he had a gun. I'm like, okay, I don't know why that matters. It's still a simple assault. Well, he had a gun. Yes, he had a gun. I agree. Okay, we can dispense with that. But yeah, they get the wrong end because all of a sudden they think it's a gun, whether it's involved in a particular incident or he happened to just have it on his person when he was picked up, right? He gets in an argument and it's a verbal argument and he's charged with disorderly conduct, but he has a concealed carry permit. And all of a sudden, it's like, he had a gun. I'm like, he was just arguing. Yeah, but he had a gun. I don't understand why that's important. He should be able to go home. But it's just that certain factors, people get scared because if I go, he must be a crazy, violent person.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, well, I got 2 guns in the car. I don't know what is it? I don't know what that has to do with it.
Right. Yeah. He's got knives in his kitchen at home, too.
There you go.
That always reminds me of the story Petroni would always tell Chris. When he was driving, he was working with U.S. Law Shield, and he got pulled over by an officer. And the officer was looking in the car and saw these U.S. Law Shield signs in there. He goes, "Oh, what's U.S. Law Shield?" So Petroni told his Firearms Legal Defense Program. I'm one of the representatives. And he goes, "Well, you have a firearm with you?" He's like, "Oh, yes, officer." And he's like, "Well, what gun do you have with you today?" And Petroni's answer was, "Well, officer, today I actually have 3 guns."
One gun, 2 guns, 3.
Petroni, rest in peace. God bless.
Yeah, I miss him, man.
We miss him. For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Catching up on the comments over here, DG New Show. Inside prisons with attorneys and Russ dressed as Santa. I like it.
I'm not dressing as Santa and going into a prison.
From PA State Prisons. That's creative advertising. Stacks Farm Set says, "What's up, Mike?" That's Jason Stack from Stacks Farm Set. Thank you for joining the program and checking us out. I'd love to have you on the program sometime. So, Rich, I want to shift gears here a little bit. Aside from the war stories and that case that just came down. We want our listeners to be aware of their rights. Well, we've got a little bit more time. I want to talk about mere encounters while we've got you before we get into that other gun club case.
Oh, no.
Can we do that?
We could definitely do that. This is my pet peeve, but it's
yeah. Because we were dealing with a couple of cases, and Rich and I, when we're in the war room and we're looking at all these cases and we're analyzing all the issues that we could potentially attack, whether it's at a preliminary hearing or on a habeas or later on down the road at trial. We're taking a look at all the different issues that there might be, and especially when you've got something that might be a suppression issue, we're looking at that early on, and where they're attacking it at the preliminary hearing just to get things on the record that would be helpful during an omnibus pretrial motion or something like that. We're looking at all this stuff. So we were taking a look at one of our cases, and I think the question ultimately turned on whether it was a good stop. Is that a fair way to describe it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the way they were setting things up and how fine they get with these things, so we could ultimately get to telling our listeners what exactly the police are allowed to do in these situations, how much exactly they get away with, because it's really mind-blowing to the average person, I think.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court started, and the courts have developed a test for Fourth Amendment encounters. When does your right to basically be left alone to the police trigger, right? Where do they need a reason to stop you? So it's, you have a investigatory detention, you have a custodial where they're placed under arrest, and then we have this thing that's called a mere encounter. Now, a mere encounter, you should think of it as, two people crossing the street, right? It is the most, and I'll put my biases out, the most ridiculous concept I've ever heard in the law in my entire life. So the case that we had, young lady was in a parking lot, parked legally at a hotel parking lot she was staying at. And the police, in the police report, noticed that she was sitting there, parked his car, his patrol unit in such a way not to block her exit so she could back out, so he could, quote, initiate a mere encounter. so
you can pre-plan them, you're saying?
Wait a minute. So you planned to just run into my guy? I don't
Right,
understand
exactly.
how that happened. So what? So, and then he approached the car, had a conversation, and then discovered some things, and the case went on from there. When I deal with it, the issue is that the laws come up with this concept that certain things are just mere encounters. Police don't need a reason. They could have no reason, any reason, some reason, a hunch, doesn't matter. So, if a police wants to walk in the street and say, hey, how you doing? That you don't get any Fourth Amendment protection from that, which I understand. But they've devolved this into such a way that if a reasonable person would feel free to terminate and leave, that is a mere encounter. That's the basic black letter law.
That's what it's supposed to. Well, that's what it's supposed to be. I think is the more fair way to describe it, because now that's why. First of all, let's talk about how they set this up. Because in the affidavit of probable cause, specifically mentioning that parked his vehicle in such a way that he wasn't in the way, right? So he's parking in a specific place, one as opposed to the other, just to set up that it's a mere encounter, right?
He had no reason to talk to her, no suspicion of criminal activity, no probable cause.
But he's setting it up specifically, surgically, so he doesn't have to, right?
Correct. Because he wants to talk to her because he may have a hunch about something. He wants to interact with her, so he does it in such a way that he needs absolutely no reason and can walk up to her car.
You ever see Three Amigos where they're trying to break into the place and Steve Martin's trying to get their attention and he's on top of the roof and he's like, look up here. He's like making bird noises to try to get their attention. That's what these officers are doing, trying to initiate these mere encounters, right?
Correct. Yeah, and he walks up to the car. And according to the law, he says, hey, can I talk to you? And then the client or any person starts to talk to him. That's a mere encounter because the court will reason a reasonable person in that situation, any person in the world would say, no, put their car in reverse and take off. Mm-hmm. What reasonable person would do that?
Right. And the police show up. And they park next to you behind it. Let me get the heck out of here as quickly as I can, right?
Right, because then next one, he left. Why would he leave? Because he didn't want to talk to you. Well, I thought that was suspicious. No, what's suspicious is you pulling up for no reason and wanting
to talk to him. Right. There it is.
He's initiating the mere encounter, right?
That's right. Yeah, but they'll purposely do that. I'll give you an example. This is a case law, and this is crazy. So pulled over, right? Speeding. I don't care what it is. Takes your license, gives you a ticket, hands your license back. You can go. Walks away, comes back. Actually, I want to ask you a couple more questions.
Right. It's almost like watching football tape when you see this stuff, though, because they take one step back or two steps back, come back and say, before you go, you mind if I ask you a few questions? And the idea is that the person's no longer being detained because they've told them they're free to go. And now this is all fair game, right?
All bets are off.
Yeah.
And the police officer asks him, hey, you got a couple of keys? Actually, I do. They're in the trunk. And they're like, well, wait a minute. You didn't have reason to suspect he had drugs. He's like, well, it was a mere encounter at that point. Well, he handed him his license back. He could have just taken off down the road. And I go, nobody thinks that.
Yeah, right.
And the funny thing is in the cases and the ones that you read, the officer gets on the stand and testifies, the reason I handed him his stuff back is because I didn't have a reason to ask him. I may have had a hunch, so I made sure I tell him all that so I can ask him a question. And he's like, so he was free to leave. Yeah, if he would have pulled off, I would have just let him. I don't believe that.
How many people are?
Okay.
But that's where it goes back to the standard that you mentioned. Would a reasonable person under those same or similar circumstances feel free to leave? And in a lot of these situations, I think it's painfully obvious that a reasonable person would not feel free to leave. Right? You get your stuff handed back. The guy's standing in your window saying, "You mind if I ask a few questions?" Would a reasonable person feel free to throw the thing and drive away? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Same situation where somebody's parked in a hotel parking lot, let's just say hypothetically, and the officer, maybe he's not blocking them from behind, but he walks over to the window and taps on a closed window and was trying to get their attention. Would a reasonable person feel free to leave in that situation? Simply throw the car in reverse and drive away when an officer comes over to the window and starts tapping on the window? What do you think?
Right.
Chris, would you feel free to drive away in that situation?
Am I being detained? Am I free to go, officer?
Well, that to ask that,
but
right?
you're right. No,
we're not talking about that. You're asking. Really, the reason you're asking is because you're not sure.
Yeah,
right?
I might even roll the window down and be like, "Can I help you, officer?" So, I mean, I probably would,
Yeah. What about you, Russ? If an officer comes on over, taps on your window, do you feel free to leave?
No, because he's standing right there.
How about you, Liberty? Do you feel free to leave? Officer taps on your window. You're parked somewhere. Officer parked, but he doesn't impede. He's not in the way. If you physically wanted to reverse and go away, he's not in the way.
Yeah, but the
he
possibility
parks
of hitting
staggered,
him,
right diagonally, and then he comes over to your window, taps on your window. Do you feel free to leave?
No.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments. Under those circumstances, in that scenario, you're in a parking lot, you're stopped, and somebody pulls on over, law enforcement officer behind you where you can physically get out of the way. They walk on up and they tap on your window. Do you feel free to leave under those circumstances?
And are the lights on or off, Mike, in this scenario?
That's a good question.
Lights would be off, probably. Right?
The lights can't be on.
Right.
There's
they
case
can't be on.
They put the
then you can't
lights on.
Yeah, then
no
it's a
reason.
stop.
That's a command to stop.
That's a traffic stop, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a traffic.
It's command to stop when you're already stopped.
Yeah,
I couldn't be commanded to stop. We couldn't have been commanding him to stop because he's already stopped. Your Honor, we were commanding him to go. We were telling him you're free to leave. If he's driving and we put the lights on, that means stop. If he's stopped and we put the lights on, that means go.
Get out of here.
If he's already stopped, then that means stay.
That means,
right?
That means
if
stay.
they turn on the searchlight, it means roll over.
I was accused once of an officer did that, pulled me over, and then he said, "What is that?" And he said, "It looks like residue on my dashboard." And I was like, or in my cup holder. I was like, "What do you mean residue?" And he was like, "Well, you should show me that." So I was like, "This?" I was like, "Oh, this is a Dunkin' Donuts muffin." I'm like, "Sorry, I was cheating on my diet." But he was trying to, he say it was like marijuana residue or something like that. And so I've had some weird experiences, so I'm a little scared of cops, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, we probably all had at least one weird experience,
Yeah.
I had a weird experience where a cop I interrogated or cross-examined at a prelim pulled me over for speeding 5 minutes after the prelim.
Oh,
really?
That was an interesting experience.
Really?
That was a case I did with Mike in Columbia County. That was funny.
He was like, "You again? Get out of here."
He said, he's like, the best part was, is he comes up to the car and he goes, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I was like, "Didn't we just have this discussion? You know I'm not answering that question." He's like, "Get out of here."
Yeah. Do you know why I pulled you over? Because me and Mike G beat the heck out of you in court. Am I under suspicion for aggravated assault for what just happened over there?
We beat up that cop too, but it was funny. He just smiled at me. I saw him walk and I went, "That can't be." Comes to the window, I go, "It's the same guy." Damn.
I like funny. Jeremy Miller's response here to the pullover question. I'm already pulled over. I can't pull over any further.
Is that from a movie?
I feel like that is from a movie.
Oh,
Probably.
somebody help us out with them because it sounds familiar.
I think it's Super Troopers.
Super Troopers.
Super Troopers.
I think it is.
This is the
I can't
maximum
pull-
amount of pulled over that I could possibly be.
This is a good one.
I
Rich
can't
Kramer
pull over.
Beretta says, could that be interpreted as probable cause leaving when talked to by the police? Well, the whole point is supposed to be that you're free to leave, right?
You're free to leave. So no, the flight alone from police is not enough to determine probable cause.
But do you think that
Fine.
that's another thing that gets confused by a lot of people? They say, why are people always running away? It's like, well, they want us to run away, apparently. Right?
I just walk away. I'm like, I mean, the problem is it a reasonable person who knows they can leave? But how many people know they can leave? And that's, and an officer, when you looked at that affidavit of probable cause, and Mike and I have had affidavits that similar to it, they surgically and strategically set the scenario so they can have a mere encounter, which is funny because a mere encounter just seems to happen to me. If we look at regular definitions, it just happens. But they set it up so they don't need a reason to come investigate somebody for
A
something.
mere well-planned encounter.
Well-planned encounter.
But what the heck is a reasonable person, though? If they're giving us these standards where most people would not feel free to leave or wouldn't know that they're free to leave, what's the reasonable person anymore, right?
I think it comes down to what the court says. Like,
Right. Well, so
it's
it's
not-
the reasonable judge who's been practicing law for 40 years. Is that what it is? That's
Right.
the reasonable person standard?
The judge asks you, would you leave? Yeah, but I'm a defense attorney. I'm not talking to him.
Right.
I'm walking away till he grabs me. But my mother doesn't know to do that.
But
You
even
know?
so, even so, just simply walking away without would you ask questions? I know that am I being detained? Am I free to go? Have a nice day, sort of thing.
I think
But
that's what I
to
tell
simply
people.
start walking away, I mean,
That's me. I would have put my car in reverse and just been, the old backheads thing. I would have just left.
and then unless the lights came on, then you're good to go. But
Yeah,
then,
once the lights come
I don't
on-
think the average person would ever think to
Yeah.
do that,
Right.
especially
No.
law.
Yeah, I only know because I know you, Mike, and other attorneys, and
Right.
otherwise I
And
would
maybe
know.
people, maybe criminals, right, who are just trying to get out of there would do it. So you're putting them in a better position than the law-abiding citizen. That's ultimately what happens with these
Well,
rules.
because they have experience. They have
Right.
experience. They know
Not their
what the
first
law
rodeo,
is.
like you said.
Well, they have experience. Maybe they have bad intentions. Then maybe they having bad intentions would pay off in that kind of a situation, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
the cop sets up
Ignoring
the mere encounter and the bad guy is in the parking space, he says, "Oh heck no, I am not getting caught, no matter what happens." Backs up and drives away, even if he's expecting the cop to chase him, thinking I'm going to outrun him, he's in a better position than the person who tries to cooperate.
Yeah, absolutely is. Because if the cop starts following him, then we have a problem. Or if he tells him commands him to stop, then it's not a mere encounter. It's that commander restricting the movement in a way is what defines the difference between a mere encounter and then, an investigatory detention.
So what you're saying, Rich, is wait until the cop is as far away from his vehicle as possible and then floor it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not legal advice. If it was, you'd be getting a bill.
You're getting a bill at the end. Actually, Russ, you always say you could be getting a bill at the end. It's really you'd be getting a bill beforehand, right? Right?
Yeah.
You're getting a bill from us beforehand.
I've had successful suppression issues in that type of scenario where I set this up, I parked the car, he started backing up. When he started backing up, I told him to stop. And then when you instructed him to stop, he said, yeah, I just pulled next to him because I wanted to talk to him. He went to leave, I told him to stop. I said, no more questions. And then I go to the judge. I said, Judge, he said, well, it sounds like, I said, hold on, Your Honor. It would have been a mere encounter. He set it up as a mere encounter. A mere encounter means what? Person's free to leave. My client went to leave. He told him to stop. At that point, that's a command. He obeyed the command. That's a stop. That's an investigatory detention. The reason he set it up as a mere encounter, because he had no reason to stop him, unless backing up and leaving, which, according to the case law, is what he's allowed to do.
Yeah, that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Guys just said he's supposed to do that, and he should have done that. Come on, guys.
Come on, man.
You're backing up illegally.
He goes, I guess you have a point. I'm like, what do you mean I have
A point?
case?
What do you mean a point?
And then the DA said, well, he left. And that causes reasonable suspicion. Why would he leave? And I look at the judge because he didn't want to talk to the officer. That's literally, Your Honor, he can't say it's a mere encounter, set it up as a mere encounter, which means he had no reason to stop him. Because if he had a reason to stop him, he said, I observed X, Y, Z, sold some drugs to this guy, and this is the marked vehicle and all this other thing. But he didn't. He's like, I set it up as a mere encounter. He was in the parking lot. He tells him to stop. Unless backing up created suspicion of him doing something wrong, the judge agreed with it, and that was the end of that case. Because as soon as he commands him to stop, he needs a reason.
Another
It sounds
question from KPK
Okay.
Crypto. Can I leave my gun in my glove compartment as I go into a store or somewhere else? There's no law against that. I want to address that while it pops up. There's no law.
Wouldn't that
against
make
it.
it
There
a
have been
gun
many
compartment?
embarrassing situations where somebody has a firearm stolen from them when it's not secured. There was even one where a law enforcement officer had a firearm stolen from the vehicle while he was on duty within the last few years. So potentially you could face some kind of civil liability if you're negligent in the way you store your firearm. Philadelphia is notorious for if you get a gun stolen, they revoke your license. And,
Yeah,
that's
something about-
regardless of what measures you take. I had a client who had a gun in a safe in the house. They broke into the house. They stole the safe. The gun was in the safe. They revoked his license. Well, what else could you possibly do besides not having a gun at all?
Well,
in
it
that
sounds like a
situation?
fitting punishment, right?
So as far as
Yeah,
a crime
right.
was committed against you, now we're going
Wait a
to
minute,
take
what?
your license. Yeah.
But there's no law against that. There's all kinds of safes that you can look into that are portable that you can keep in your vehicle. Now, understand that
Bolted to the
because
floor.
of their purpose and the type of safe that they are and being portable, they're not going to be the most secure things in the world. But one of the things acts as a deterrent for the person, because if you have a good safe that's well secured in the vehicle, even if it's not exactly impenetrable, it's going to require tools and it's going to require time. And they're going to have limited tools if it's sort of a smash and grab type of situation, and they're certainly, hopefully, not going to have time to sit there for as long as is necessary. So you certainly want to keep your firearm secure, but there's no law against that in Pennsylvania, at least. Rich, have anything to add on that?
Yeah, they shouldn't. I mean, if you're keeping your firearm in your car, you shouldn't be gone from the car for a long time. That's not true for me, because if I'm going to the mall and clothes shopping, it might be at least 6 hours, because I'm in there a while. I'm not. If anybody sees me pull up to the clothing store and they're like, "He must have left his firearm in the car," I got it at least 6-7 hours. It'd be like a safecracker, got the drill out and everything.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, that's important. There is no law against it. People have asked me that on numerous occasions. But what if I run in the store? Can I just put it in my glove box? I'm like, there could be civil liability if it's then used, for some criminal activity, or it harms a child or somebody else. Certainly, I wouldn't advise you doing that, just leaving it in the glove box. But I've done that. I mean, if I got to run in somewhere and run out and I don't, it's in the car and I don't, because it's not comfortable, I'm driving. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly appreciate you putting it in the glove box or somewhere. I certainly wouldn't advise you just leaving it on the passenger seat and go in for dinner. That probably wouldn't be a good idea. You might get some unwanted attention when you come out of the dinner establishment.
Now, another thing, if you're going into a post office, you got to be careful, because the parking lot is also off limits under federal law. If the parking lot is under the sole control of the post office, then that's going to be off limits. So there's a separate legal discussion that could take place about whether the place where you're going, whether storing it in the vehicle is even lawful, right? VA facilities, stuff like that.
That's true, but if you're still going to the post office, we're gonna have a different discussion than simply legal discussion.
A technological
2021. I don't know why. We're gonna go right.
Jeremy
Some
Miller says,
places have
seems
the
like they don't
lockers.
want people to report stolen weapons. Scott asks, what legal grounds can Philadelphia revoke a legal citizen's license? So the criteria that they always use, there's part of the license to carry statute under 6109 that allows them to deny or revoke if somebody's of a character and reputation that suggests they'd likely pose a danger to the community. So under that standard, it's malleable, it's discretionary. It's not like there's this list somewhere out there. These things render somebody of a character and reputation that would make them dangerous, and these things do not. It's sort of a fact-specific sort of standard, and as a result, a lot of times we end up arguing these things in court. Some counties are generally more lenient than others. Philadelphia is notorious for you got unpaid parking tickets. That means you got a character and reputation that suggests you're dangerous. Guy gets a safe stolen from his home with a gun involved. That suggests you're dangerous. That you wouldn't believe some of the things we've heard for character and reputation, but that's the legal reasoning that they lean upon. And many of these things, when they end up on Rich and I's desk, they end up appealed. And we've got many of those overturned over the years, the Philadelphia license to carry denials and revocations, because they're very, very sensitive to all kinds of things. We have it happen with arrests, but not convictions, right? Somebody's been arrested for something. It doesn't mean that they're guilty. It doesn't mean that they did it. And yet they use that as the basis. And the courts have said that it doesn't have to be a conviction because that standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. You've got a lesser standard in a civil context, which would be a license to carry firearms denial, revocation, or appeal. And they say, well, we're not using the fact of conviction. We're using the conduct associated with that. And if appealed and there were a hearing, the government would actually have to put on basically a mini trial for whatever the allegations were. They'd have to bring in evidence to prove the conduct that was alleged in that criminal case, independent of the charges in and of themselves. So that's the short version of the way they're doing the revocations over there. Stack's Farm says, is that how Chipman lost his gun? I like that. Miller says, no, he threw it in a dumpster like Hunter Biden.
That's always a pleasure.
Oh, goodness. Lots of stuff being said over here. Rich, I don't want to keep you too long. We've got one more case that I wanted to discuss with you, unless you had anything to bring up about that previous talk. I don't want to. I cut you off.
In Philly. I was looking on my computer to open up our client list, and I was just going to go through all the reasons that they have come up with.
Oh yeah,
lid that, and he said a naughty word to a police officer once, and the officer thought he was being mean.
Yeah, this guy went pee-pee in the ocean at the beach when he was a kid. So
this guy's reputation. He didn't hold the door open. That's one I'm looking at right here. Philadelphia is notorious. If they hear about anything, the next thing you're going to do is they're like, yep, you're done.
They'd like to infringe. They missed that part about shall not be infringed, I guess.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, beyond that, for those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Gary says someone dropped off a bottle of Miata red wine and squirrel jerky at my doorstep. Is that illegal? And then he says, why isn't Philly Chris wearing a baseball cap, or is that like a cool lawyer thing to do?
Definitely the cool lawyer thing.
Next week I'll have to wear one, I guess. Yeah.
I'm rubbing off on Richard S. Roberts. That's what's going on over here. We got to all get these. We all got to get these Elite Tactical Armory hats, though. They're pretty cool hats, are they not?
Yeah.
No, I saw it at the show. I was very upset. He's like, I only got one.
I was upset, too. I was really pissed off, yeah. I don't think we should have him as a sponsor anymore.
Rolling on the ground.
He's trying to axe David Coates because of the hat. He's got to get you guys some hats. Well, if we do that shoot over there at their place, I'm sure he'll have more hats at his location.
Yeah.
So we need to do that.
Definitely.
Maybe we could have some kind of like Mike G in the Morning after party over at Sette Luna or something, right?
Let's do it.
Like Sette Luna. We already figured that out.
Yeah, that's your fault. That's your fault getting me into these things. That's a good spot. They're not paying us any money, though. They could at least give us some free shrimp risotto or something.
Hey, we promote you. I think we should get a comp dish here.
Bring our guest from last week and we'll get everything free.
So let's talk a little bit about this gun club case, just for everybody who's wondering at home. I got to share this. So if you're on the new subscription to our text message updates, you should have received something, and maybe somebody could let us know in the comments whether you received a text message reminding you about this evening's episode. The one tonight said, less than 1 hour at 7 p.m. Eastern. Join us for the Mike G in the Morning live stream. Attorney Richard Roberts is back to discuss criminal law cases affecting your rights and a lawsuit regarding restrictions on a range/club. Watch by clicking here. Stop to end. let us know if you received that. And if you didn't receive it and you want to, write in at MikeGinTheMorning.com. We'll get you on the list. Notice how it says less than 1 hour. I was talking to some of the folks behind the scenes, and apparently the original opening to that was 1 hour left or something like that. It's supposed to go out at 6 p.m. Eastern exactly, and clearly did not. It says I got it at 6:19, so must have gone out after the fact. What ended up happening was the original text that I suggested, because we're trying to get together the language for what we're going to talk about, Rich. It said instead of on a range gun club, it said on a gun range/club. It says on the text, it's range/club. The original message said restrictions on a gun club, because that's what the case is about. It's about a gun club. And the word gun apparently short-circuited everything, and they blocked the text message for going through to the group because of the word gun. So that never went out that way. So we had to get creative. Once I got the call saying, hey, this didn't go through, there's a problem here. They're not allowing us to send this message because it includes the word gun. I had to say, just call it a range/club, I guess. And the beginning had to change up because it wasn't 1 hour and it was less than 1 hour. So it's just so everybody's aware with the types of difficulties you deal with when you're involved in Second Amendment law and media. We'll leave this for after Rich leaves because we don't need to bother him with this. But we had somebody leave a review somebody contact us that they left us a review on our law firm's website and on the page, and we didn't see it, and apparently that got taken down before it even posted or something like that. I don't know what could have possibly been said that warranted the review being taken down, but it was a happy client was like, hey, thanks so much, I just wanted to let you know I just left a review, appreciate it, that kind of thing. And I'm like, leave a review on the wrong law firm because I don't see anything here. And then I said, hey, where'd you post it? Said right here, sends me the link, goes to the law firm's page, but it says this review is no longer available. So it got yanked for whatever reason. But anyway, that's a different story. So Rich, why don't we talk a little bit about this case? I know you sent it on over, and you and I represent a lot of gun clubs together. Obviously, I deal with the gun laws in a lot of different contexts, and I always love working with you when representing the gun clubs because you've got that land use zoning type experience that I know nothing about. And so a lot of times these issues do creep up in the gun clubs. We've done a couple of, I don't want to call them cases, but we've had a couple of clients who are gun clubs even in recent months dealing with these types of issues. So what happened with this case?
So they were renting land or purchased land in a particular township in Pennsylvania. They wanted to either reopen or change the use as a gun club to use certain kind of rifles that the residents, they're probably loud, the residents of the particular township didn't want. It's a very small township just outside of Pittsburgh. So not really a place you'd expect to be very anti-gun. It was just this particular gun. And what the township supervisors did, the people who run the township, is change the zoning law. So this particular kind of business could not operate where the business was located. And then they sued the township, arguing that there was a violation of the Second Amendment rights. There's a part of the Second Amendment is the right to be proficient and practice and have places where you can practice proficiency, practice shooting your rifle, loading your handguns, things like that. I believe it came down that the district court did not side with them. However, the Third Circuit, in its opinion that was released a little while ago, reversed and asked the trial court to take another look using the Third Circuit's two-step process to determine whether or not a particular law violates the Second Amendment. It's their Marzella decision, which is the two-step process. One, does the step, ask, does the law implicate a right to bear arms? And then two, if the answer is yes, it goes to heightened scrutiny. So as opposed to rational basis, if it's a rational basis, it has to be rationally related to a government interest, which if you get rational basis, no matter what the law is going to pass constitutional muster. There's strict scrutiny, which is a compelling government interest, which no law ever meets. And then there's intermediate, which is what they did in this case, where it's a heightened scrutiny and has to be related to an important government interest. So we don't have a final decision whether or not the range/club, as Mike put it, I don't want to get in any trouble. The range/club is going to be successful, but it looks like they are. The one thing that I pointed out when he talks about the land use and land development, as I'm reading the case, and the partners at Zeta Law will be happy that I actually pay attention to their expertise area every once in a while. Obviously, this particular range/club wanted to take the constitutional route, but I think there would have been an easier way to get the result without implicating the Constitution. They'd have to sue in state court. But when you have a particular business, each township throughout the state is divided up into zoning districts where certain uses can happen in certain places. And if this place where it was allowed moved there, wanted to build the range or the gun club, right? And then all of a sudden the residents like, we don't want it here, change the zoning. And the township changes the zoning. You can't do that. Pennsylvania law does not allow what they call spot zoning. So they can't remove the use after them people have moved in there to set up their business in order for them not to be able to do it in a place they would have been able to do it then because they moved in. It's not a constitutional decision. It wouldn't have Second Amendment implication. That'd be no different if you wanted to build a warehouse in a particular location, the warehouse was allowed there, all of a sudden the people were like, it's going to destroy our neighborhood if you put a warehouse there. And then the supervisors go, you know what? Warehouses aren't there anymore. Well, that doesn't work. That doesn't really resolve the constitutional issue like this does with the Second Amendment, but the analysis would be exactly the same. But it seems like I appreciate the way the gun club did this because I think it'll be an important decision once the district court looks at it again and makes its decision based on the Third Circuit's instructions to it. But what I put in here is that there's multiple ways to go about things.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's not the most obvious way, right? If looking at that, maybe that's not the most obvious. If you're dealing gun club and everything, that comes down to a different area of the law. It's more of like an issue spotting thing, right?
Right. And I mean, they wanted to get it into federal court, and you couldn't raise the Pennsylvania land use decisions in, the Western District of Pennsylvania. They would have looked at you like, I don't know what you're talking about. Land use, that's not my thing. But they wanted to make a Second Amendment case. And in order to raise a Second Amendment case and get into federal court, it has to be a federal question. And the federal question is the Second Amendment, which is how they get into federal court. And they wouldn't be allowed to raise that spot zoning issue. So they wanted to go to federal court. You can also raise it, in my personal opinion.
Well, if you've got multiple claims,
you could have brought you could have went to state court, sued them for that zoning issue and the Second Amendment issue as well.
But then it gets removed.
It wouldn't. You could get it removed, and I don't know if the township could have removed
federal court can interpret state law in certain situations. If you sometimes you're looking for an issue in terms of legal research. Sometimes I'll be looking for a specific issue on a specific law and interpretation, and there won't be anything good at the state level or anything on point at the state level, but you might find an interpretation of a state law from a federal court that would be helpful, for your case. Or maybe it's not helpful. Maybe it throws your entire theory out the window. But there are certain situations where they're able to look at these things. It's not going to be their primary area of dealing. Obviously, it's going to be better. That kind of an issue is going to be better suited for a state court. But sometimes you end up with these multiple layers with both.
The other thing you can run into if you're in a situation like this, and which gun clubs, anybody listening who are looking to make a similar type challenge, the rule in the law, and Michael, is that if you can avoid the constitutional issue, you do so at the first instance. So if the federal court is looking at this and you raise the zoning issue and you raise the Second Amendment, and the court goes, oh, I can get rid of this with the zoning issue, They're commanded. The rules say you do with the zoning issue, you leave the constitutional issue alone. So you might, depending on your conversation with your client, say, if you solely want to go after the constitutional issue, you can only raise this issue, even though it may be easier or a better chance of success this way, because if you raise both of them and the court can get rid of it without touching the Constitution, they're going to do that. So it's really a strategy discussion.
Strategy, exactly.
What you have to do.
Yeah, I remember in Oklahoma in civil litigation, you'd have guys who'd bring these lawsuits. The plaintiffs' lawyers would all bring the lawsuits in state court that had dealt with federal law. It's not they were improperly brought over there, but they brought them, and knowing full well that it could be removed and the defendant was likely to want to remove it. And the reason they would do it that way is if you file in federal court, it would be more expensive than filing in state court and having the defendant pay the removal fee.
Right. It's strategy. Right. It's how do you want to approach it? What is your
these
goal?
Plaintiffs' firms would save a ton of money every year by just filing them in state court, knowing you're never going to see the inside of that state courthouse.
Well, I mean, it's well, if they want to fight it out in straight court, it's just there's ways, there's strategy when it comes to the law, and that's conversations we have with our clients all the time.
Do you think that it was ultimately? What do you think of the decision?
Well, I think it's the correct one. I think when it comes down to individual rights, they talk about an individual right. It also incorporates an individual right for practice, and you have to be able to have places to do so, to be proficient, to get practice. And I think it's the way we're going to see it be analyzed in the future. The Third Circuit is certainly not an outlier in how they analyze Second Amendment cases with does it affect the right to bear arms? And then if it does, you get an enhanced scrutiny. And that's really the way most constitutional rights are analyzed. Does it affect the right? If it does, how do we scrutinize the law and whether the law is or is not constitutional? The problem is it's just relatively recent. And most of the cases have, 60, 70, 160 years of developed case law from the Supreme Court with different questions. The problem is, and the interesting thing for us as lawyers is this is a new area of law, relatively speaking, and the circuit courts are kind of developing it, and you're kind of seeing one person goes this way, one person goes that way, and the circuits kind of gel together, and then this is a pretty traditional way to analyze cases. So it's interesting to be on the forefront of it, be involved in litigation like this, like Mike and I are, and really be in the forefront of creating how the law is going to be in the future.
Did you notice who was the attorney?
I did.
Alan Gura.
Okay.
His name's on a few cases, right?
Just a couple.
Second Amendment stuff. I always hear that case in my head. You argued Heller, obviously, but always hear that song in my head that all I do is win, 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 no matter what. Do you know that one?
That's DJ Khaled. I love that song.
Oh, you know that song. You know that one.
Of course I know that song.
Well,
DJ Khaled. I know who that is.
Rich is like Trump. He's sick of winning.
He's so sick of winning.
Yeah, I say that.
Your head's going to spin.
Right.
Yeah, we had a nice result this week. Came into the office like, what happened yesterday? Won again. What'd you expect? I don't know.
Yeah, right. Come on, man.
You didn't say anything. Okay, why do I have to say anything? I win. And then I go, I'm not you. I don't know what's going on here.
We had a lot of cases dropped over the last few weeks, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good result for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a little disappointing. I like to fight it out, but if people cry uncle, it's just as good. That's
true. That works. Justice Brothers at work, right?
I like that. We need a Justice Brothers billboard, Mike.
Yes. We got CB cartoons.
I got the new guy at the office looking into some outdoor advertising. Like, we have to put out some Justice Brothers billboards.
Perfect. We have to get that exact case that we're looking for in Montgomery County, right?
Yes.
Have you been denied the long gun purchase due to an old 302 in Montgomery County? Justice Brothers.
Justice Brothers. You're very specific here.
Love it.
I have to go. I'm going to go have a beer with DG. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
DG has offered beer, so Chris is leaving.
I like DG.
Peace out. You can stick around, Rich, right?
When we do our live show in Lehigh Valley, we're getting DG to get the whole Lehigh Valley fan club together.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Great.
Can't wait to meet you, DG. And all of our other wonderful fans.
All right, Rich. Before we let you go, and he owes the kids some ice cream, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
We got to get that picture out there. Justice Brothers take Rehoboth, right?
There we go.
Say hi to Mike.
There he is.
Hey, buddy.
Sorry. Oh, we got both of them.
We got both of them.
All right.
Both of them. Both of them.
Look at that.
There we
Got some glasses on. Cool, just like Daddy.
You're both on the air. Hi, how are you this evening?
He's in the picture.
Both of
Oh,
them.
they can't hear us because I'm in your ear, right, Rich?
Oh
Yeah, you got me in your ear. I gotta close that up. Hold
Yeah.
on.
Tell them.
Let's see what we got. Let me disconnect here.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
cute.
And then tell them what the ice cream's on the boss again.
Ice cream is on the. Did you both behave for Daddy while he's on the radio?
They did. They were
Ew.
good. Came down here because it's getting late.
Well behaved. All right, you guys gonna go? You guys gotta get some ice cream, right?
They're leaving now. They're like, he's boring.
Bye, little Richard.
What? See now what you did? You're going to get some ice cream. Look, guys.
Going to get some ice cream?
Say bye.
Bye.
Glasses on for you.
Looking good. She's ready to be on the air. She's ready for big time.
She is ready, and she got a.
So is little Richard. Let's see your muscles, little Richard. Let me see your muscles.
Okay,
See the
right?
muscles?
Whoa! Look at that.
Weeks.
All right. I think you've earned some ice cream.
He definitely has. Starting kindergarten in a couple of weeks.
Wow, that's exciting. That's exciting.
Bigger than your dad's.
Wow, that's amazing.
All right, guys.
We got a new attraction on the program. Look at him go.
That's awesome.
Can't ban those guns, right? We like to talk about guns on this show.
That's the future, Mike. He's going to take over for us so we can retire.
Those are some serious guns right there. Can't ban those, right?
Right. He's going to take over for us when we retire.
That sounds good to me. You have a good evening. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Mike. Talk to you soon, guys. See you,
Take care.
everybody.
See you, Rich.
For those of us
Nice.
just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So, interesting stuff all around, talking about your rights and all kinds of scenarios that people need to be aware of. I like talking about this stuff, especially when Rich and I get on here and tell war stories, because you hear about all scenarios that you might have not otherwise thought about if you're not in this business on our side or dealing with it from a standpoint that you're being charged with a crime or you have some kind of police interaction, which you never want to be in that situation. And if you do happen to be in that situation, it's definitely helpful to have knowledge at the outset that will help you avoid getting yourself into trouble. So I like being able to talk about that. The people who listen to our program, a lot of them don't have a ton of interaction with the criminal justice system. And so they're frankly, not experienced. I'm not saying it's a great thing to be overly experienced on the wrong side of the criminal justice system, but
Right.
you're at a disadvantage. You're at a serious disadvantage if you haven't been. So to hear some of these stories, I think puts people in the right mindset. Don't you think, Chris?
Yeah. No, it was really interesting conversation. I enjoyed it. And I didn't even know what a mirror stop was until today, to be honest with you.
Mir Encounter?
Yeah, mirror encounter, right.
Yeah. And walking down the street, that I mean, the idea is really supposed to be if they're walking down the street, they can ask you questions just the way anybody else can ask you questions.
Okay, right.
That
But it's
they don't
supposed
have
to be
they
just
don't
a
have
true natural encounter, not where they follow you and put themselves ahead of you and wait
or,
for you.
yeah.
Or park
I mean,
next to
that's
you when they
carried away, but they get away
Right.
with it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Mhm.
Really what it's supposed to the principle is supposed to be that they don't have any fewer rights than anybody else on the street. They don't have to close themselves off from
Sure.
having encounters with people on the street.
Yeah, they can always ask you questions, but you don't necessarily have to answer them.
Well, that's true too, right?
Mhm.
They ask you, what color are your socks? You're not legally obligated to stand there and answer them. But that's not what's going on in these situations. These
Are you
these
allowed to
real
lie about the color
situations
socks?
We're talking. What's that?
Are you allowed to lie about your color socks?
They can't lie to the police, Russ. They can lie to you.
Yeah,
but
but
you can't
if
lie to
it's
them.
something inconsequential like socks,
Mhm.
You know what's a great way to not lie to the police?
Not talking.
Not
to
wear
or
socks?
Don't
shut
make any statements. That's right. Not wear any socks. That's his answer. Only wear furry slippers.
up.
As long as you only wear furry slippers,
I'm not
you will
wearing
never
any
lie
socks.
about the
I'm
color
wearing
of your
slippers.
socks.
We got to get that picture over to DG, the one I took in the studio of Russ with
Oh,
the slippers
gee,
on.
that was
You
so
got the
gotta
Russ
find that.
long ago.
slippers.
I have that somewhere. Yeah.
So, sir, do you know why I pulled you over? Gee, officer, do I have 4 flat tires? Am I allowed to play like stupid smart aleck?
Yeah. Sure.
Being allowed to and advising it are 2 different things, by the way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what that
Right.
was really what I was gonna
That's
say.
the
Yeah.
difference.
Just don't
Yeah.
make statements. Gary says Philly Chris should have to wear a Colonel Sanders costume. I think I'm on board with that idea.
Yeah, why not? Give out some chicken.
What's the matter,
With the
Colonel
Santa
Sanders?
costume, Santa
Chicken?
and Colonel Sanders. So Russ is playing Santa. Did we land on Russ for Santa? I think
No.
so.
Who's
think so.
sending?
Did he just end the show because I said that? He just cut.
I
it
don't know.
and
Something
everything?
popped up there. Are we? No
Yeah,
longer
I don't
live?
know.
We're no longer on the air because it's
I have
We've been
no
canceled
idea
just
what
like
that was.
Yeah,
been canceled.
it was
How
something
about
from Rich Roberts, I think.
what's that?
It was like a message from Rich Roberts or something.
It was probably a link. It was. It was.
He probably
too
did it by
big
accident.
to-
Is it- yeah, the kids are on the keyboard probably. I think that's what it is. I think that's
Did
what
it show up on the front like the one time he was like, "I gotta go, guys."
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, what else do we have on the agenda today? We've got
Mhm.
a lot to talk about, things that have been in the news lately. Let's check in with Liberty. We haven't heard from her in quite a while because last week at the episode was thrust into almost a production assistant role. Is that fair to say, Liberty?
Yep, I had to share my headphones with Russ.
You had to share your headphones with Russ. You're checking the levels on everything
Right.
and helping us just get on the air for whatever time we could because the clock was certainly ticking.
Mhm.
And
Russ gave me 5 stars as an assistant. Thanks, Russ.
Yeah, you did good.
Yeah.
A lot of setup on the live
the amount of
show.
stars we give to Russ, it's a different story.
Yeah, the amount of wires, it was insane.
Yeah.
The amount of wires, and Russ was just moving along. So good job, Russ. But I think he needs to show up earlier next time. Just saying. Sorry, Russ.
Yeah, you might be onto something there.
Hmm.
Well, that always takes longer than you think
Sure.
with that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now you know.
Right.
Yeah, learn as you go, right?
Honestly,
So you didn't
well,
you didn't get to really participate last week. Oh, well, you're gonna have the bag of excuses now. It's Santa Claus and his bag of excuses. Let's hear it.
There we
Yeah,
go.
I'll give
An
him out like
excuse for
Oprah.
you.
You get an excuse. You get an excuse. No, it would have definitely started earlier if the mics would have worked right away.
Hmm.
I think that's a fair thing to say if the mics actually
Mike was ready to go.
cooperated.
He was working.
Huh?
Yeah, this mic was working. Nothing wrong with this mic.
You
the
can't
other
use
mic, yeah.
USB. I told you this 1,000 times. This is why I'm the tech guy and you're not. Because
Yeah,
you'd be
th-
like,
this-
why can't everybody hear me in my ears? And I'd be like, well, Mike,
Russ,
because
you
you're using
totally
a USB
missed,
mic.
You totally missed the joke.
Russ.
What's the name of the program, Russ?
He forgot. Apparently, he
Radio
forgot.
silence.
I'm filling in on that, Mike.
Do you know what we're doing
Russ?
right now, Russ?
You know where you are, Russ.
Do you,
I have the right to remain
Joe Biden's
silent.
our producer.
do you know what country you live in, Russ?
We have Joe Biden as the
Well, it
producer.
ain't
Hey,
America.
Joe Biden's the producer.
It used to be America. I'm not sure what it is at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Who's on the $1
Don't-
bill, Russ?
Don't walk on the lawn.
You know what?
Stay on the
I live
path.
in the North Pole. I live in
Do
the
you,
North
do you
Pole.
understand the joke now, Russ?
Nope, because you're really bad at making jokes, Mike. I'm sorry. I'm
Second of
sorry,
all, I
Mike.
didn't
Somebody
make the
had to
joke.
tell you.
Chris made the joke.
I made the
That's
joke.
first
Yeah.
of
Okay, well, it was so bad that I thought Mike made it. So that,
everybody
that should
else
be
laughed.
even more.
Right.
They were
But
just
you
being
understand
polite.
it now.
Nobody
understand now?
actually laughed. They were just being polite.
Don't
Sure.
follow the Secret Service onto the lawn, Joe. Stay on the path to the Oval Office. Yeah, so.
So, do you know the name of the show, Russ?
Yeah, I was leaving silence on purpose because I thought it was funny.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh, thank you. Well, the name of the program is now Bird Watching with Russ. So if anybody...
Tweet, 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 tweet.
Look up here.
Look up here. Look up here. Up here. Up here.
Look up
Oh my
here.
gosh.
Look up here.
Look up here.
That's
Oh,
the old
that's
mere
great.
encounter.
That
So
was good.
Liberty, we cut her off again.
Yeah.
We're good at doing this, right?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
pretty good at just.
She has,
talking
she has the
nonsense.
patience of a saint.
Yes.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah.
So what do we have on the agenda? What have you been wanting to? What have you wanted to talk about for the last few weeks that hasn't been able to come up because you've been suppressed?
Well, not to make
you're
a joke of it.
definitely a
Not to make a
Republican.
joke of
You're
it. 'cause it's
definitely
serious.
Republican because you don't have the opportunity for all this time, and then when it's your turn, you're like, I don't know.
No,
We're going to
I-
repeal and replace Obamacare. We're going to repeal and replace. What are you going to replace?
No.
Okay, you're in charge. What are you going to replace it with?
I'm pulling a Russ.
Uh,
No, well, I
Speaking
mean,
of
I was
birdwatching.
trying to not make it lighthearted as to what's going on in Afghanistan because you said that I wasn't allowed to speak for a while, and I'm the woman on the show. But I mean, it's a serious thing, and it just reminded me of the CNN report I saw where she was literally told to step aside because she was a woman with the Taliban. She was a CNN reporter, and she was actually out there, and they told her to step aside. But what's going on and what's really strange is that it seems like the Taliban is trying to almost put like a campaign out there saying that they're like the new Taliban, and they're like not
like
as
bumper cars and gym equipment and stuff like that.
they're
Yeah,
saying-
right.
well, they're saying they're not as like repressive towards women as long as whatever Sharia law allows, like under that. But I mean, apparently in the more rural areas, and there's so many reports. It's a moving machine, like honestly, because I've posted probably 25 stories in the doc, because I'm
did you?
very interested in it because it's scary. Can you imagine waking up in a country just totally taken over, and now nobody knows? It's the fear, it's the unknown. It's really what we were all scared of, quite frankly, after 9/11, right? You didn't know what was going to happen, but that's their country. So
Yeah.
anyway, we
Even
also,
worse
I know,
now
feel like
than
Chris
after
brought it up in
9/11.
the beginning, but I really wanted to focus more on the women's side because, I'm the woman on the show, whatever. But, but it's, we should really be proud to be in America and that we do have a voice, but it is very scary because nobody knows, right? Nobody knows what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. Everybody's looking around. They're scared others are going to report something they're saying. And I wanted to say one of the first things they did, can you guys guess it? One of the first things they did, the Taliban, when they took over.
Murdered all the women.
Crossword puzzle.
Well, I know
Well,
that-
think about it. What we're always promoting on this show.
As they
went
played
around and
hopscotch.
They
Oh,
took
gathered
away,
up the guns.
Yep, they took away firearms, and they actually, if you have firearms, you have to show like some kind of card. They're also giving. Apparently, they're giving.
It sounds like New Jersey.
The Taliban has a firearms ID.
You got a
card, you're saying?
license for
They
that
have a valid
firearm?
ID card in the Taliban.
Oh,
Welcome to
dear.
the Taliban. Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, there's
I mean,
enough guns at the military bases that Biden left behind.
Yeah.
So
yes,
those are
they
available for
took
everybody.
over everything, and there's
Right.
of course for everybody, the story everybody's sharing is that Biden put it out there saying absolutely not, it's not inevitable that they're going to take over. He very much declared this. It was played all over Fox News everywhere, But anyway, I was focusing more on the women aspect because it's just you have these rights, and boom, they're taken away.
You
And what's the
mentioned
first thing they-
CNN. You mentioned CNN. Was that story real that was circulating? I didn't get to
oh.
look at it further, but
Which one?
the lady said something along the lines of they're chanting
Yeah,
death to America,
I
but
saw
they
that.
seem
I saw that on
peaceful,"
CNN.
something like
It came
that.
live, yeah.
They're
But they
saying-
seem
they're
friendly.
chanting
They
death to
seem
America,
nice.
but
They
they're
seem-
surprisingly peaceful.
Yeah, they seem friendly. They seem
Yeah.
nice. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I saw that.
Russ, can we pull that clip up because that's just bonkers? No,
She was the same one they said told her to move aside, like later that day or something. Yeah.
and she was cool with that,
I
right?
just
Yeah, she was fine.
Real
with it.
Step aside,
I can't let the
women.
liberals complain about America after seeing this. I can't. I'm not going to tolerate it.
So
No,
okay,
it's crazy. Yeah.
we got a couple of comments over here. Jeremy says, "Have you heard of the veterans coming out publicly saying that some Afghan soldiers would sexually abuse children, and our soldiers were told to ignore it because it's their culture? Anyone who did anything about it had their careers ended."
I remember that.
Jeez,
I remember hearing about
So,
that a few
yeah.
years
that's
ago.
outrageous. That's insane.
Yeah. that's
Was
crazy.
that
That was like an Obama era kind of.
Obama era?
Yeah, it was.
That
It was. I don't remember what year it was.
Well,
But
any year
I
was
do
bad,
remember
you know.
hearing that sort of thing.
Crazy.
I'm sure a lot of them had their careers ended as a result. Then
Mm.
maybe they don't talk about it constantly. This is not something you're going to hear on the mainstream media regularly, obviously.
Right.
But
I'm
Yeah,
you
well,
got to
the-
imagine
the
think of
mainstream media
veterans
loves
that you know,
pedophiles.
fully, Chris. Think about the veterans who you know, the
Mhm.
ones who come to mind. Could you picture
Sure.
any of them standing by and watching something like that and not doing anything because of orders?
No, I can't really.
Yeah, I can't think
Right.
of
Mhm.
any of the veterans that I'm friends with
No.
not doing something about it and just saying,
Mhm.
well, I was told I'm not allowed. It's their call. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
And the quote of the day from the Taliban was, "We understand people kept weapons for personal safety. They can now feel safe. We are not here to harm innocent civilians." The Taliban
okay.
official
Oh,
told
yeah.
Reuters. There you go.
Mhm.
They seem trustworthy.
There you
Seems
go.
Like the same quote one of our listeners posted earlier in the comments about we're the government now and we're here to to help you or keep you safe
gotcha.
or whatever. Yeah.
You don't need
Okay.
that fire, I promise.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I think it's Reagan's quote there.
Yeah.
So Kramer Bretta says Biden has lost his argument regarding the not needing assault weapons because citizens can't fight a government that has F-15s and nukes. Apparently, all we need are AKs and some donkeys.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, restream.
I mean, you're just sitting there like a sitting duck, you know.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. what's
Literally,
going
and
on.
there's like story after story of the females out there, the journalists, the ones that were doing stuff with education, they're like hiding out, saying we
Sure.
don't know if we can, what we can do. We don't know what we could say. They're probably going to come and kill me. I could be killed by
Mhm.
tomorrow. I mean,
Well, it's insane too that Biden is basically saying that they're not going to assure that the Americans are going to get home, that everybody's going to make it home. So because Taliban has the airport surrounded, as we all know, and they have checkpoints, and we're not doing rescue missions, and there's at least 11,000 Americans over there. So
Wow,
they don't
it's
let them
almost
through.
like
I mean, he's basically created the largest hostage situation in history.
it's almost like he's a traitor or something.
Well, it almost seems like it's by design, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
And
yeah.
where's the squad at on this? Where's the squad?
They're keeping their mouth pretty shut on that.
Wow,
Actually, yeah.
that's a first.
Mm-hmm,
Maybe they were commanded to keep their mouths shut by these Taliban men.
Yeah, well, it just came out too that Omar did actually marry her brother and brought him into the U.S. The FBI got caught having their
Wow.
DNA results on that. Yeah.
Wow, look how gross that is.
So I think she's focusing on that right now.
Oh, jeez.
Apparently, yeah.
Oh, I bet that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Just ignore that. That's part of their culture.
That's right.
Mm.
Apparently.
Jeremy says you should have Dan Holloway from Drinking Bros podcast on to talk about it, former 82nd Airborne. Actually, we had a gentleman on this program, former 82nd Dom Leon. He was, remember the homeless veterans video in New York, Chris? This is before
Yes.
you started joining us on the program, but
Yes.
he and I and Liberty went down to New York and did that video. We'd love to do that again. Pandemic
that
kind of
was
put a
great.
wrench in the plans to do it the second year, but
I think it's one of
We
the top videos on your channel too for people who haven't seen it, and your original music is in there too. Yeah, it was a great
that's
production.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Let me see if maybe we could get a link. Somebody would post a link to that video in the chat, but that would be
CNN?
cool to get Dan Holloway on. We could bring Dom on to talk about it as well.
Mm.
As somebody who they've been in the same places and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, your mission is to get Dan on the program next week.
Sounds
Dan
good.
Holloway from Drinking Bros. And if you don't, you're fired.
All right, sounds good.
That's the.
We'll
the
cut your
public
pay by
knowledge.
half.
Donald Trump.
Do I get a severance package or something?
Sever this.
Can I give 14 days notice like Cuomo? Or?
Yeah, give 2 weeks notice like Cuomo, right?
Yeah, hold on. Before you fire
You know
me.
what's nonsense though? We made that joke. I think like the day it happened. and we
Right.
were all cracking up about it.
Yeah.
And then some of the, I don't know if it was the late night hosts or whoever.
Yeah.
there were people on TV making that same joke. It's
Oh,
like,
were
come
they?
on, man. We already
Stealing
did
our-
it on the Mike G in the morning. Post.
Yeah,
We
we're
made that
usually
joke.
ahead of the curve. We're ahead of the curve.
We
We were ahead of the
tomorrow's
curve on
news.
China. We've been talking about China for over a year, and here we are. Look what's going on
Yeah.
in China now.
We even
Right?
got
I
punished by
talked about
YouTube for
Taiwan, I
it.
think, a year ago. Now they're probably going to invade Taiwan at this point because Joe's just going to stand by and watch. I mean, he's letting Americans hang out in Afghanistan, so I'm pretty sure he's not going to
He
worry too
forgot
much
they were
about
there.
the people in Taiwan. Yeah.
Did you see that John Cena video
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
when he
Yeah.
called? Russ, can
Yeah.
you pull that up?
He apologized, right? The one where he apologized. Or
Yeah, because
whatever?
he called Taiwan a country, right?
Oh, right.
Wow.
Have you guys seen the Schwarzenegger one where he said "screw your freedom" or whatever? Have you guys seen that?
No.
He
Well,
just-
let's get into
Yeah, we
it.
got to see that one too. We'll put Russ to work tonight. You ready, Russ?
Put it
Hey,
in the
Russ, you can
doc.
Start off with the John Cena
Yeah, there we go.
apology video. 'Cause I want to see this.
Put it in the
And
doc,
everybody get
fool.
Everybody get your vomit bags ready. Like when you're playing, right?
This is your captain speaking. We're about to hit some turbulence.
Yeah, you're about to be sick to your stomach.
Yes.
And
Currently
Who are you,
flying at
Captain
36,000 feet.
yeah. So we gotta speak in code words, right? We gotta come up with more code words.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking?
Zucchini.
Was that
Zucchini.
zucchini?
Well, now everybody knows
I know. We got it. We
Oh,
need a new code
there
word
you
here.
it.
But you're right, though. Yeah, we probably should come up with some code words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More code
It's
words.
it's a pretty sad state of affairs where you have to come up with code words
Yeah, we
Just
gotta
to
invent
talk
our
to
own
each other,
language,
just
to
like the
not,
States of America.
you know.
pretty much.
Should we just start speaking in old Latin? Does the YouTube bot know enough about how to censor that?
How about the pig Latin there? Like,
Did you get the John
Ike
Cena
May,
video, Russ?
you're a meat
No, I didn't get the John Cena. Put it in the doc.
We were
What am I?
asking you to look
What am I,
for it.
your
big
producer?
doc.
I can do it
Alright.
for you, Russ. Hold on, I'll take care of it. Don't worry.
Oh,
You're gonna
okay.
go on YouTube.
I don't
and you're
even
gonna
know what
type in
video
John
you're
Cena
talking about.
apology video.
I didn't hear about that.
You didn't hear about that.
No.
Do
Oh,
we
you're gonna
really?
hear
Do
about
we
it now.
really need to
And
watch
you're gonna
some?
lose any respect you ever had for John Cena.
All right, I got it. I'll put it in the doc for you, Russ. There.
Do we really need?
putting it in
do
the
we
doc,
really need
Russ.
a
Chill.
video to watch some weenie denounce his? You know.
Oh wait, no, that's in Chinese apparently. That's funny.
No, he does it.
strange.
He does.
Does he
part of
say
it.
it in Chinese
They actually
too?
translated. We should watch this. I'm going to put this in the doc too. They actually translated his voice. This might be funny to start with. I don't know. I'll throw it in the doc. It's up to you, Mike. Here, it's right at the bottom of my other links there, Russ. If you go into the doc on Google, Russ, at the bottom.
That's John Cena.
I think so.
What kind of hair is that?
I don't know. Full apology to China. Here's the regular one though.
Okay, I'm putting up the technical things banner.
Yeah. All right. Here's the legit one that Mike wanted, and then the first one could be
Mhm.
for entertainment purposes only, I guess. Share. Let's see. Copy.
That is the wrong browser window.
Zucchini was the code word for the things you got to put over your face, right?
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Zucchini.
Wait.
I mean,
Oh,
we could,
yeah,
we
in
could
Philly, you
just
have to
change
double
that one to
zucchini now if
muzzle.
you're not vaccinated.
Double zucchini.
Yeah, you got double zucchini and pumpkin sometimes.
Just stuff
wait
a
till you have
melon
to-
in your
Wait till you have to
nose.
squash.
Just stuff a melon in your face.
There you go. Nice,
Russ is
Scott.
doing technical
380
things.
caliber
We're gonna get this
zucchini.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably should serve refreshments right now on the flight.
How long do you need?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're currently cruising.
What are you the captain of?
Mm,
funny.
Who are you, Captain Crunch?
yeah, get up and use the
Captain
laboratory
Kangaroo?
before the turbulence hits.
That's funny. Internet Chris.
Oh man, I gotta remote to this computer.
We're not there yet.
No,
In the
I'm
meantime,
not
I
there
should say,
yet.
if somebody can't afford a suit for court, a good place to go. There's a lot of consignment shops around, and also Goodwill. Believe it or not, I actually found a Chanel top at a Goodwill once, so
Oh.
you can find some pretty quality stuff.
It's in vertical.
Hmm.
What is this?
I wonder how many people in our audience know what a Chanel top is.
I know Gary does. He buys them all
At
the
least
time.
one of the hosts. I could vouch for the fact that at least one of the
I
hosts
actually
does
think
not know what it is.
Attorney Rich Roberts.
Rich Roberts would certainly know what that is. He'd be like, Chanel, what you mean?
Yeah, a little Chanel action.
All right, you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I finally got it. Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's shot in disgusting vertical video. They put it
Well,
on
we're not
YouTube.
saying he's
like,
bright or anything.
No, I can't stand it when people do that.
You have to send
你
him.
好，中国，这是叫西娜。我必须说，现在，在速度与激情中，我做很多采访。
Let me read it for these people. I'm a giant wimp, and I accidentally called this place a country, but I was mistaken because I'm bending over for the CCP, and you know they got me over a barrel, and you know I'm filthy and I don't like freedom. That's all.
Looks like he actually knows Chinese there. That's interesting.
资讯 information，
Mandarin or
所以很多采访。
He's actually saying it in Chinese. Look at the way his mouth matches. Look, it
Yeah, I don't
like
know.
it matches what he's
很
saying.
多 information，我有一个错误，我必须说，现在就是很。
I'm so glad he knows
He's
Chinese.
really sorry. Really sorry there.
I think there is one where he
Yeah,
does
I
it
put the other one in the doc right
English.
below. So it should be Mike originally wanted
Do
to.
we have to watch this guy again?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I couldn't pay attention to everything at once. It was distracting. I have
Yeah,
to-
just show the video where he's
the
begging and
regular one.
pleading and whining.
He was already
And
whining.
former pro wrestler John Cena has touched off an international controversy.
Cena apologized to the people of China after calling Taiwan a country during a promotional interview with a
'Cause he's
Taiwanese
a
broadcaster.
giant
Taiwan is a country. I mean, it's an independent country. John Cena is not alone in Hollywood in towing that line.
我必须说，现在就是很重要。我爱更尊重
I have to say now it's very, very, very
China
important to
and the
respect China
Chinese.
and
The Late
Chinese
Show has
people.
acquired the full apology.
All right, here we go.
你好，中国，这是叫西
They
娜。
didn't acquire this. They just cropped the YouTube video.
Isn't there one in
我做很多采访。
I wrongly
wrongly
said
said
Taiwan
Taiwan.
is a country.
所以
Wrongly,
在
wrongly,
一个采
wrongly.
访，
Not only
我
is Taiwan not a country,
有一个
it's also
错
not even a real. Oh, they're messing around.
All
The
right,
Chinese
that's the wrong
people didn't threaten me. Oh, I forgot to take off the privacy screen. Hold on, I'm an idiot.
Uh-oh. Yeah. You're getting yelled at
Why
by
didn't you guys
everyone.
tell me?
Thank you, Jeremy.
That's not okay. There we go.
All right. Things happen.
What am I, your producer? Get out of here.
What happened? Was Russ on the screen?
There was definitely one in English. Don't you remember? Where he's like,
Yeah,
"I'm
I thought that was the one, but I was
YouTube
trying
is
to-
notorious.
I'm sorry I said Taiwan was a country. It's totally not a country. Please forgive me, Chinese government
Okay.
people.
YouTube is notorious for giving
Did they
like.
get rid of it? The apology in English?
Maybe it's gone.
Of course they
Oh,
did.
dear.
Come on.
Oh, I know where you can find it. Hold on. I'll be back. Twitter
Would it be
usually-
on Rumble? Did somebody?
Twitter usually is where you can find
Guardian.
the deleted stuff. Hold on.
Well, if it gets deleted on YouTube, just put it on Rumble. It still blows my mind that YouTube and I guess the parent company Google thinks that they can actually censor people when the internet isn't composed of just YouTube and Google.
Sure.
There's
but
other
most people
places.
go
There's
through
other
those portals
places that it can
one way or
go.
another, yeah. Right.
And the internet's forever. Once it exists, it can't be deleted.
Yeah.
So
So they turn the lights out.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's put this in theater mode. Ooh.
See how well the internet works this winter.
Wait, how do you spell his last name?
Please. Get this video of him. whining.
CENA, and I'm pretty
I
sure
wonder
it's
why a
now
bunch of
pronounced
WWE
China.
stuff is coming up. Would that make any sense to anybody?
What is it?
What?
Is he in the WWE? Is that who he is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
like,
Come on, man.
this guy.
Come on, man.
He
Come
was
on.
only a wrestler,
Come on, Liberty.
or I guess
you
an
like wrestling?
actor.
I thought maybe you like wrestling, but I never heard you talk about it.
No.
It's more real than the news these days. You know?
They're calling him John
That's
China,
saying
guy.
John China.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh
mean,
yeah, you can't find. Everybody's already made like silly videos out of it.
John Cena, John Wiener.
Yeah.
All right. I think we burned this one right up, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's not fair, but
Yeah.
Life ain't
what about
fair.
the?
Get
He's
over
saying there's this Arnold video. Where
Yeah,
he's-
yeah, that one.
we get that.
Try to find that
Is
one.
anybody on the show qualified?
Let's see.
Yeah, I've only found Chinese ones where he's speaking Chinese.
Where
Free,
do these
free, there you go.
Hollywood people learn to speak Chinese? That's what I'm wondering.
I know I upset everybody with my
Well,
most
there is,
recent speech that was live.
Oh.
It's very misleading, and I apologize about my accent. It's very difficult to understand me. I actually
Did you
said,
find it?
Blames it
Stu
on his
boy,
accent.
feed him. I know a boy named Stu. I started a charity for him. Stu is poor, so we need to feed him. I hope you all understand that this charity needs
This
attention.
isn't.
I'm sorry if there
This
was
is
any...
not it.
This is
Clearly-
not it.
I think I found it here.
Okay.
Oh,
Apparently, he's screwed up multiple times because I typed in Arnold Schwarzenegger apologizes. So this is just a running theme for this
Arnold
guy.
Schwarzenegger apologizes again.
Right.
Ugh.
This might be it, Russ. But
Oh,
and there is actually a sponsor who pulled his one of the nutritional supplements that.
There's still people that live in denials.
Oh, wow, he looks old.
There's still people out there that say, well, we don't have to do social distancing and all this kind of stuff. There is misinformation out there. And my point of it was basically, look, there's no one that knows more about a virus than I do because I studied this issue for 50 years. And the same is also with the virus. There are people out there that are experts that study this year after year after year and that are experienced, like Dr. Fauci that has been in this, probably for his entire life. I mean, why would you not believe someone like that? So, and there's so many other scientists out there and experts on this subject. So I believe them and I follow them very carefully. And of course, sometimes things are happening that are unexpected. So then you have to make the adjustments and all that. But I think people should know there is a virus here. It kills people. And the only way we prevent it is to get vaccinated, to wear masks, to do social distancing, washing your hands all the time, and not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom.
Screw your mask.
Because with freedom comes
Idiot.
obligations and kind of responsibilities.
Okay, well, you can
free
take
freedom.
a zucchini and stuff it somewhere unpleasant. Okay.
Didn't he use steroids and stuff?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think it gives you false hope because I think I did every single one of those things and I still got the virus.
Yeah, well, there's a lot
I
of
wore
that
the
going on
mask,
right
I
now.
social distanced,
Yeah,
and
what-
I
I mean-
washed my hands and I still got it.
So
Two of my friends just came down with it, a husband and wife couple, and they were vaccinated several months ago. So, but these breakthrough cases are quite common now.
Well, I was just
Oh,
gonna
they
say
were
that doesn't
vaccinated.
prevent.
They were
anything.
vaccinated, yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of
They're
people are
both sick
not
right now,
vaccinated.
yeah. No, I know
Yeah,
quite a few
quite a
people
few.
who have been vaccinated. And they're openly saying now you can get it. Supposedly the consequences are not supposed to be as bad, and it looks like the data does support that. However, originally I think people were told they wouldn't get it if you got vaccinated, right? Also, I guess
Yeah.
we were supposed to have 2 weeks or so to slow the curve, but
Same as if
not
you
that,
already had
so.
it. If you've already
Yeah.
had it, I think it's not going to be as severe from what
Yeah.
I'm seeing. It's kind of
Mhm.
similar to if you had the vaccine.
Don't worry, guys. It's only 2 weeks to flatten the curve. All right. Just 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's all it's gonna take.
I just think the mask is a lot of like false, kind of making you feel good. But I do.
Sure.
I
It's
believe the
basically
virus
a
is
security
What
up.
did you
blanket.
think? And this is a guy who was allegedly a Republican when he was governor of California, right?
Right.
There's one of the radio hosts. I think it was Curtis Sliwa, who's running for mayor in New York now. He's a Republican. Used to always call Schwarzenegger Bill Clinton on steroids. so that he's not. Don't be mistaken. He's not a Republican. He's Bill Clinton on steroids.
What do you mean
But-
steroids?
But what did he think he was going to accomplish by saying that? Did he think that anybody who was opposed to whether it's getting vaccinated or wearing masks everywhere, inside and out. Anybody who's opposed to those kinds of things and is interested in freedom would respond well to saying "screw your freedom." Well, okay. Well, now you say it that way, then I will behave.
Yeah, right. It's almost
exactly as you say.
It's almost like have you seen the mask and vaccine billboards? It's like, oh, now that I saw it on a billboard, I think I'll go get it in my arm now. Ooh, right. I'm so glad. Other people couldn't convince me, but this billboard, man.
They're really pushing it too hard, you know. They're pushing
I just think everybody's got to decide for.
Yeah, it's a personal decision, right? It should be anyway, but.
No, screw your freedom. Screw your billboard.
Screw your freedom is going to. It's almost as if you sat there and thought, what can I say that'll get people to do the exact opposite, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Governor Murphy.
How can I tell people to get vaccinated, wear masks, social distance?
Yeah.
And then in the same sentence say something that will get them to do the exact opposite. That's the way to do it, right?
Screw you, get to the chopper.
The way you would do
self-isolate in the chopper.
Hey everybody, get a vaccine, wear a mask, social distance, and screw your freedom. That's the way.
So he accomplished the exact opposite goal.
Yeah. How could you tell people to do one thing but achieve the opposite result? That's how you do it. Maybe he's really anti all that stuff, and he's just has to come out there and say that he's into it and knows that.
Well,
screw your freedom.
That might make more sense, Mike. You're making a lot of sense.
Well, not only that, but if you bring it down to a level where it's like a reasonable conversation, like, hey, Arnold, you know, I was kind of worried about, you know, this whole vaccine thing. It's not exactly FDA approved, and it's approved for emergency use. It's still kind of experimental. And also wearing a mask to protect against this virus is like putting up a chicken wire fence to protect against mosquitoes. So you know,
now we're getting kicked off.
It's not exactly the most intuitive thing of what they're telling us. It seems kind of contradictive. And you know, it's kind of biting at my freedom. Okay, well, you need to wear a mask, you need to get the vaccine, and also screw your freedom. Oh, screw my freedom? Well, screw you. Get out of here.
There's a statement from Redcon.
You're saying
Redcon
screw
1.
my concerns.
I don't know if you guys want to hear this, but there's a statement from Redcon 1, which apparently is a nutritional supplement that was actually you know, giving Arnold money or whatever. He's a spokesperson for them. And it says, Arnold entered America with passion that he too could achieve the American dream. Singerman continued, of course, it wasn't easy, and he pushed through language barriers, poverty, and dramatic cultural differences. His dedication to the sport and perseverance helped him not only reach but achieve more than he ever imagined. A guy who had nothing and no advantages, who never made an excuse and created tremendous success. He became an icon based on his work ethic, his charisma, and his grit.
And now he's a total wimp.
He kills people, and the only way to prevent it. Okay.
Now he's a total nerd.
So yeah, basically their point was making, you know, he came here and enjoyed those freedoms, and now he doesn't really care.
Somebody in the comments.
Doesn't make him American.
Chris, you want to read that?
Yeah, let me go back to them here on my phone. Yeah, let's go.
The last three.
See. However, I'd like to, so from Kramer, however, I'd like to point out that he chose to live here, not in some other country, for the opportunities that freedom brings. Yeah, good point. Absolutely. And the next
freedom
one from Kramer.
Above all is the most precious thing we as Americans have. Arnold is entitled to his opinion.
It's true. Absolutely.
Even if it's wrong.
DG says, don't give Arnold any attention. No, I'm giving him attention.
Arnold does like attention.
We're going to give him attention, and it's going to be the type of attention that he deserves.
Yes, indeed.
We're going to call him a wiener and a wimp and a nerd for several minutes.
What do you mean I'm a wiener? What does that even mean?
Maybe we could come up with a code word for that too. Remember Anthony Weiner?
Yeah.
We can call him an Anthony Weiner.
An Anthony, yeah.
We can call him an Anthony Weiner.
My name is Arnold, not Anthony.
Call him Anthony from New York.
Yeah, there you go.
That New York Wiener.
Any idea what happened to that guy?
Didn't he kind of disappeared, didn't he? Yeah.
Got in a bunch of trouble for tweeting out indecent photos of himself.
Yeah, he was putting all those pictures. They were pretty funny
Who?
pictures too. Yeah, Anthony Weiner.
Anthony Weiner. Yeah, and when you were comparing,
And he was married to Clinton's assistant there, right? The what was her name? She had access to Clinton's emails as well.
Was it Huma Weiner?
When you were
Yeah, that was it.
comparing
Yeah.
Arnold to Bill Clinton, I thought it was because of like his personal life, because I think he was caught with something, right? Like he had a
He had
situation.
an affair with his cleaning
maid.
lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan Bongino ripped him up pretty good the other
That's
day.
what I thought
He
you
tore
were-
him apart, yeah. He got he was going off about how he's kind of a fake,
One of the
basically.
Republican, was it a mayor or somebody or governor got COVID, and they were, it was like trending on Twitter. I forgot who. it was.
With a name like Wiener, he'll
And-
show up again.
That's true. Yeah, and he'll pop up, won't he?
Texas
Jeff,
governor.
we're getting kicked off now.
Texas Governor Greg
Steady,
Abbott tested positive
Chris.
for COVID-19, and I think he had the vaccine. I'm not sure. Yeah, he tested positive. Yep.
Does that mean that the vaccine isn't completely effective? Whoa!
See, I read
Don't
one story
question-
that he
don't
had it, but
question that
I'm
one.
not sure.
Oh, I can't question it. Shut up, eBay. Well, okay. Can I question the breakthrough cases?
Sorry, DG.
You know, the breakthrough cases have something to say about to say about the efficacy.
Mm-hmm.
They're safe and they're effective. Don't
Pretty
worry.
much a lot
I'm
of the
still
things.
They'll
he
surprised.
protect you
told us.
against the
Chris didn't get it.
droplets.
What's that?
I'm still surprised you didn't get it. I mean, it's crazy. You've been
Well,
everywhere.
Yeah, I really have gone out. I didn't really stop. I actually traveled more, I think.
Really,
Yeah.
This is like Dr. Wilner. You know about Dr. Wilner?
No.
Dr. Wilner, fill us in.
We might be able to. You might be able to find something on YouTube about him, Dr. Wilner.
Dr. Wilner.
And there's this guy, Justin Coates from New Jersey. He does political commentary.
Uh-huh.
And the first I heard of Dr. Wilner was through Justin Coates posting this stuff about him. He was a doctor who was heavily critical of Dr. Fauci during the AIDS pandemic situation.
Right.
And if you listen to what he's saying at this press conference, a lot of it's very, very similar to the criticisms people have of Dr. Fauci today
Mm-hmm.
in the COVID context. And Dr. Wilner injected himself with HIV at a press conference to prove something. And apparently at the time, Fauci said something along the lines of, oh, well, it's not going to work because he'd have to stick himself 300 times in order to actually get the virus. And
Really?
Wilner said something like, how is that a pandemic if you got to stick yourself 300 times?
Yeah, right.
Everybody, I think I'm not making any comment on the validity of Wilner's claims, you know.
Right. Sure.
But what I am saying is that it's something that everybody should see, because I didn't even know that this exists until the last month or two. Everybody should watch the press conference with Dr. Wilner. He ended up dying of a heart attack at an airport a few months later.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so something unrelated to HIV.
After that incident? Okay. Huh.
Yeah, nothing related to HIV or AIDS. Died of a heart attack. And there are people out there who say that somebody shot him with a heart attack.
I was just going to say that, actually.
You know about the heart
That's
attack
a real
gun?
thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How does the heart attack gun?
Is that like the brown note?
It's actually a little ball. It's very tiny, and it's a specific type of metal. I forget. It might be titanium or some real rare metal that the body doesn't feel. You can't feel it. It's like surgical quality metal, and it has small perforations in it, and they put a poison in there. And secret agents have access to this gun. It's a known thing. It's actually in those CIA books or whatever, and they'll shoot you with it, and it feels like you got maybe like bit by a bug or something. You don't even realize, but there's a piece of metal that's entered your body, and the poison triggers a heart attack. So And I don't believe it's traceable either, the type of poison they use. So yeah, that's pretty wild. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
You
right?
need to watch that video. We need to see a Philly Chris reaction video. Dr. Wilner.
Yeah, I got to see that.
We're going to send him down a rabbit hole.
Right.
How are we talking about herpes on the chat right now? I go away. I leave you guys alone for like 5 seconds. What? Come back
What happened here?
About herpes.
Oh my goodness.
Some comedian was saying something about it. People ask, about whether you've been vaccinated. And, I don't know if you got COVID. Can you wear a mask? I don't know if you got COVID. It's like, have you ever had herpes? Because that's easily spreadable and stuff like that. And it is interesting to consider how some of the measures we take for this we don't take for other diseases that could have negative impacts on people.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Bro,
and I'm pretty sure when you go to these restaurants now, even in Philly, that are requiring the proof of vaccination. I saw somebody post online in one of the forums, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to make a reservation in one of these restaurants and go in there and ask them about all kinds of different medical statuses of the waiter and the cook."
Right.
You want to see their papers. So it is kind of, when you look at it from a different perspective, it puts it into perspective, I suppose. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
DG says it's viral.
Yeah, pretty much.
Going viral.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like we showed Did we show a clip involving that at one point? I feel like we may have.
I might have sent it to you guys on the private chat.
Oh, okay.
Private
let's check it on a future episode or something.
Where it goes on in.
There's a couple of clips too in the doc if you guys are interested in checking any of those out that I put in there.
Are they about herpes or
all of them are.
Herpes, Afghanistan, or Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Right. Well, one is about Afghanistan.
all of them.
There was a contractor that was going
That's what we should call this episode, Russ. Herpes, Afghanistan, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. and a splash of Rich Roberts.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'm just so tired of the narrative on the left about the firearms and assault weapons and all of that, and I don't want to hear anything out of Biden anymore. There's a video, if you guys want to check it out. I thought it might be interesting, especially with your involvement with the Second Amendment, Mike, because a private contractor over in Afghanistan was going through some of the military compounds, and there's a video clip, that top one there, Russ, where he was showing all of the munitions left behind. And, they talk about firearms here and wanting to take them away, yet over in Afghanistan, they've literally just left, M4s and, all kinds of military gear right out in the open for anybody to access, and including children, if they wanted to walk in there. So
you don't need guns. Only the police and the Taliban need guns.
Yeah, right.
I feel like did you say you don't want to hear anything about Biden anymore?
Ready?
Well, Biden, saying,
You've had enough,
I really
that's
don't.
it?
Yeah, I've had enough completely. But
that's it.
Specifically about the Second Amendment. I mean, how can you argue at this point?
And
they could have taken the equipment. They could have left the military there and safely evacuated Americans and sympathizers and anybody who translated for our military, and evacuated the embassy instead of having a repeat of basically what we saw at the end of Vietnam, where there's helicopters, ferrying people between the embassy and the airport that we barely have control over. So, I think we've all seen the news at this point. I'm sure our listeners have seen it, but it's just disgusting. And at this point, I don't understand how it's not being done on purpose. They can't be this stupid. So, as I've said on prior episodes, you know what I mean? Yeah, hit it, Russ.
All right.
Trying to give you a little lead in there.
Try this again for the third time. I'm not going to do it live.
Again with the vertical video.
Recording. These are all just abandoned weapons. PPE. And there's no guards at all. We're just in a fucking parking lot. I could just grab an AK if I wanted one.
Those are their picnic guns. Didn't you see the tables?
Only in fours.
Yeah.
You don't need a guard for picnic guns.
Like yours.
That audio's kind of awful.
Radios.
Oh, I saw a tennis ball.
That's dangerous.
That's an assault tennis ball, you guys.
Over there on the other side of the tarmac, you can see all the Afghans lined up. Place is turning into Mad Max quick. Over there on the outskirts of Kabul, I mean, we're well within striking distance. The Taliban starts to get angry at us more than they are. This is where all the Gurkhas were set up last night waiting for their flights out. There's abandoned luggage everywhere. Abandoned Toyotas. Anybody want a free bulletproof Toyota? They're here.
Ooh.
We just gotta go get him and pick him up in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't, at a minimum destroy things, blow that up. But, yeah, as Jeremy points out in the comments, and I totally agree with what he's saying there, there's no way our military didn't know this was going to happen. The Taliban took cities and set up checkpoints around Kabul, cut off all exit points from the city over a month ago. Yeah, I mean, our intelligence agencies had this information for a long time. Even we saw it coming. So it's just ridiculous to think that. And Biden said yesterday during that news conference that he couldn't see any other way than the chaos. And when he was asked about the people falling out of the planes that were taken off and everything at the airport, he said it was 4 or 5 days ago, when actually, 2 days before. So he's completely has no idea what's going on.
So
it's maddening.
It's got to be rough for the troops in that situation because they get their order.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they have to do what they're told.
What do they say? No, we're staying.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but no, by design from the top down, it looks like it's on purpose. How could it be anything else, But the New World Order is probably telling them what to do there. Yeah, and there's actually a clip there that, I don't know if you want to lighten things up a little bit, but it's a woke world after all. Everybody's probably been down. A lot of people admit to Disney. It's a
oh no
parody on that, and it's actually one of the former Disney animators who made this. He's been getting quite a bit of attention if people haven't seen it yet. But
good thing he's a former animator, otherwise he'd probably be fired.
Well, he's a former Disney animator, and he worked on this. Took him, I think, 8 weeks or something to put together, and he basically came out the other day. Without identifying himself, saying that he's sick of, what was going on there and how the company was hijacked when it went public and is being used as a propaganda machine. So he put this video together. If you want to,
is that so? Is this a parody or is that a real sign?
Well, it's a parody. It's all digitally. He made the whole thing himself.
Well, the fact that I have to ask that,
but I think this is a sign of the times. So
yeah,
pretty much where we're at and where we're headed.
Let's see it.
Yeah, check it out. Hit it, Russ.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to It's a Woke World.
I imagine tomorrow. Camp Re-Education.
Oh my god.
Oh, look at that. Oppression Hall of Fame.
Is that LeBron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If destruction be our lot, we ourselves must be the authors and finishers.
It's a world of power, a world of fears, and we work long days to make souvenirs. All the millions of dark and the weaker's the sun. It's a woke world after all.
Can we just take some time to appreciate that?
Yeah. He put some effort into this.
This is, great, but
he's going right after Disney. He even put Disney in at the end. You'll see.
Wow.
Put the Disney.
Mulan, closed set, keep out. It's that Holy Bible.
He's getting arrested in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Snow White reality. What? Oh, look at this. Look at all these
Yeah.
these signs.
Yeah, it
Wow.
reminds me of Philly when I was down there.
I feel like I'm going through the past year.
Right. No, it's
Yeah.
a pretty good
This is
synopsis of
crazy.
what's happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
we
there's
show that video of when they surrounded you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We could go to my channel and play it if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Just don't
Wait, I wanna
just
see
don't
how it
copyright strike us, Chris.
No, it's his video. He was down there. and they surrounded him.
Mike.
Russ
Mike.
knows. He's just making sure
I
that
know.
Vegas doesn't copyright it.
The
Oh,
copyright,
he doesn't-
the claim stuff is handled by bots. The people who
What's
have
mine
the
is
copyright
theirs.
don't sit there waiting
Very
for
easy.
videos to be uploaded.
What's mine is mine.
Everyone, shut up. Look at how mostly peaceful all this is.
Yeah, it's mostly peaceful. yeah.
Fire's peaceful, right? Especially that guy with the flamethrower. Lady Equity.
Lady Equity instead of Lady Liberty.
Yeah. It's worth watching a couple times. Yeah.
Call them all a bunch of communists, and I believe they are.
Wow.
That was really
That
wild.
was
That was
great.
really good.
That was
Pretty
great.
wild, isn't it?
I am going to
Need
leave
more
this
people
guy
like him
a
standing
like.
up for what's going on because we're in trouble. In big trouble.
Jeremy says, Randy says, Taliban now has 158 of our Black Hawk helicopters too. Jeremy says, we
Yeah.
trained the Afghan army to operate like ours with a combination of ground forces, intelligence, and air support. We took away the intel and the air support and expected them to be successful.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what's messed up too? Apparently, I heard Dan
Besides all of
Bongino
it.
talking about this, and he heard this directly from somebody he knows, and from his days in the Secret Service, is in those Black Hawk helicopters. They have the biometric systems, which allow the Taliban now to go around and either retinal scan or fingerprint people and figure out who is working as a translator, or more importantly, who has the ability to fly those Black Hawks. So they'll track down the pilots. So not only do they have the equipment, but they'll be able to threaten those people and their families, and who, God knows what they'll do to their kids or
I thought
their
they were nice
daughters.
guys now. I thought they just
Well,
like,
they're of course they are, Mike. That's what they're telling us, right? You believe them, right? Yeah.
They'll never catch me. I'm gonna gouge my eyes out with a melon baller, and then I'm gonna sand
I
off
saw
my
them,
fingers.
I don't know if you guys saw it. You probably don't want to see it, but they slaughtered a woman in the street yesterday for not wearing a burqa. She refused to wear a burqa, so they
wow.
just shot her dead right in the
They
street.
killed
You know what?
Yeah.
I
And-
bet
and
she feels very liberated. I
Well, I
bet she
suppose.
feels like she has a ton of freedom.
And this is what scares me about Twitter and the fact checkers. Just a side note, I took a screenshot of this during the week. They fact checked a photo from, I guess there was 3 Afghan women that were walking behind a man, and I guess somebody photoshopped a chain in it. And it was like the big, they were fact checking this. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
come
Yeah.
on, do
Yeah,
you guys
right.
see what's going on over there? But they'll
Well,
go
of
out
course
of
they're
their
gonna
way.
fact check it, yeah.
But they'll go out of their way to make sure.
Yeah.
Do you really think that nothing like that's going to happen?
I just amazes me that people still don't see what's really going on here. But who am I? I'm just some hick kid from New Hampshire. I don't know what the heck's going on. So,
Did you see the video of the dude in New York was withdrawing money from an ATM and guy walks in with an axe?
The hatch. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
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 I wonder
Yeah,
if
he
we
was
could get that on.
I did
That
see
was crazy, right?
Yeah, that was messed up. Yeah, just for no reason. He was a former military guy too, who his mother said, I guess he got discharged and just kind of went crazy or something.
Really?
So, but a lot of
Who's
people are
doing
losing off their rocker right now.
Jeremy says, remember when the left said Trump would set women's rights back 100
Oh
years?
yeah, right. Of course.
Oh,
Of course.
gosh.
Yeah,
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Ain't that true, Jeremy? Ain't that true?
Yeah.
It's all about the
Lot more than
narrative, isn't
100
it?
years. What's going on?
About the narrative, yeah. Well, Biden just set it back a couple hundred, I think. So.
Yeah.
Now,
All the
Trump
way
did
back
say
to when
that
he first
wanted to
started
get
in the
out of
Senate.
Afghanistan, right?
He did have conditions, though, which is the
Right.
big difference. And I was watching CNN, and they keep, blaming it on Trump, but Trump had conditions, and also this is the only thing Biden said he's had to stick to. I think that was Trump's policy. He was like, well, Trump made the deal and we had to stick with it. Well, what are you, not the president anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the president now. Did you forget that?
Isn't that always the way the left operates, though? Think about it. When Obama was in office, it was constantly, oh, well, all these screw-ups are Bush's fault. It's because of Bush that I ended up with this. Every single problem
that's right.
was Bush's fault when Obama was in office.
Yeah.
And then when Trump got in office, every good thing that happened, it was like, oh, well, that could be attributed to Obama. That's why it's so good. The left takes credit for every good thing done while they're not in office, and they shift blame for every bad thing that happens while they're in office. Isn't that what we always see with the left?
You sound so surprised, Mike.
Yeah. It is the playbook, brother.
Yeah. Who's duding my phone?
I'm sure he'll blame Trump too when the market crashes in September.
Of course. But when the market was doing well during the Trump administration, that wasn't Trump's doing. Right?
That's right.
Well, they were like, oh, well, you could thank Obama for that. It's got nothing to do with you, pal. And then when it crashed because of the coronavirus and all the government shutdowns and everything else associated with it, they're like, oh, what's Trump doing to the economy around here?
Yeah, we shut everything down. I wonder why it's going. It must be Trump's fault.
The economy's terrible.
First rule of being Biden: everything is Trump's fault, except for when good things happen.
That's right.
What's this say?
Except when
good things have nothing to do with Trump.
Yeah, Disney's not with us either. DJ's right there. That would horrible.
Yeah, they got rid of the Norway ride at Disney. That was when it was sad for me.
I like
they replaced it with Frozen. That was devastating.
It was a conditions-based withdrawal. We don't leave with potential hostages left behind. So I think my point was that it's not the concept of getting out as a whole that was bad. I think that a lot of the American people in general are sick of war. And that's one thing that Trump mentioned before he got into office, right? While he was running, talking about let's cut down on unnecessary wars, which really set him apart from a lot of the others in the Republican field.
Sure. Well, they make a lot of money during wartime.
Yeah.
Ford supplied during World War II equipment to both sides. They built the engines in the Jeeps here in the United States, and they were supplying engines to the Nazis and some of the tanks and so forth. So it's sick, the military-industrial complex, but it's oftentimes about money. The elites need their money, right?
DG made a comment. I would never
Go
take
ahead.
my kids to Disney. It is nothing like when I was a kid. Shut up, Russ. Yes, Disney was around when I was a kid. I didn't even have to call DG old on that one. DG did it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, get out, but don't leave hardware and people behind.
Yeah.
That seems like a
Seems like
reasonable
common
proposition.
sense.
And it's not a little bit, it's literally billions of dollars worth of hardware, and it's some of our most advanced equipment. I mean, Black Hawks, guns, Humvees. It's ridiculous. Like, you would, at a minimum, blow the stuff up, make it non-functional. Like when the SEALs did the invasion together and had the successful extraction of bin Laden, and they had those new stealth helicopters, and one of them crashed on the wall, they blew the thing up. They didn't leave it behind, and they're in the middle of a operation that's extremely dangerous, but they risked their own lives to blow that thing up because they didn't want to get it into the hands of China. But and of course now China's backing the new Taliban government, and they're going to have access to that equipment and our biometrics. So
Great.
It's ridiculous.
Can't wait for World War III.
Well, yeah.
Who here signed up for the draft?
I think it started a while ago, Russ. It's just
okay.
a different type of war,
Well, hopefully by the time there's actual combat involved, I'll be old and fat and too old and fat to do anything about it.
Well, you already got one of those figured out.
Yeah. All I have to do is get old. I'm
Right.
doing it already, guys.
Oh, no, I wasn't saying you're fat. I was saying
No, I'm definitely
Russ
fat.
has got one of those those faces where you can't tell how old he is.
Yeah, right.
I think that I think you probably remember this, Chris. We were doing the show.
Oh man.
And
I knew
Chris
where this was
asked me, is before I got to know Russ really, but just
Yeah.
worked together. And we didn't talk much outside of the show. And Chris says, "How old is he?" I said, "I'm not sure. He's either 25 or he's 40."
Not really sure. Yeah, that's funny.
Russ can go either way.
And it turns out you're like 19, right, Russ?
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Miller
No,
says
it's-
less expensive to leave it and buy new gear, not justifying it. We leave our hardware behind every time. We've done it since Vietnam.
Yeah. Well, that's true. It's definitely
Yeah.
more expensive to ship it back, but I think at least destroy it. And certain things, they're leaving Blackhawks and, and also
the
the
least
guns
they
just
could do
laying
is
around. I mean, the left, they're so worried about the so-called assault rifles, that they
How about the assault
just left a
chopper?
whole bunch of them for anyone.
Yeah, we just left a whole bunch of them lying around.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean,
now
there's
they're
kids-
they're really America first, right? Now
Right,
they're like,
yeah.
well, we don't care what happens to people who die over there. We really
Yeah.
care about America.
Yeah, and those are real
Now they're
assault rifles. Like an M4 is actually a real assault rifle, not an AR-15. So it's
What do you mean real?
That's the quote of the day.
yeah, right,
They're like, well, it can't hit me from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they just leave them around out for just any old person to take.
Very
Yeah,
compassionate.
Can we
people.
call that
That's
the
right.
Afghanistan loophole? They
The
want to say
Afghanistan
gun show
loophole.
loophole.
Yeah, that's
Let's
exactly
call this
right.
the Afghanistan loophole. Any
That's
Joe
what you said,
Schmo or
Uh-huh.
whatever they call them over there, any Joe Schmo can pick up this AK or whatever it is and just go on a rampage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kramer Bretta says the left wants our guns. I think that's exactly the point. That every
Right.
reason that they give for gun control is total nonsense.
Of course, yeah. I mean, we know
It's
that.
total nonsense. It's just their means to achieve their agenda.
Right.
Their excuses is really what they are. They're sorry excuses.
Mm-hmm.
All that goes out the window. But they're blatant hypocrites. It's incredibly obvious. Anybody with the intelligence that God gave geese understands what their real motivation is.
Right. And they're dumb. These are dumb. They'll walk right in front
They
of your
sell
car.
this stuff. They go out there, they sell this stuff. DG, this current TikTok generation has no idea what it's like to see your own American people being held hostage in Iran, like many of us had to witness. Jeremy says the Blackhawks, MRAPs, Humvees, given to the Afghan army by us, they weren't ours.
Yeah, they're still in the height of it, but what's going to happen?
Yeah,
when things
and
settle
9/11 is just around the corner. So, I hate to say it, but it wouldn't surprise me if we saw something here on our soil or something there, to signify the 20-year anniversary of that horrific event. And, they know Biden's not going to do anything about it. So I don't want to see that happen, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, Liberty. How long until we see the resurgence of ISIS or an ISIS equivalent? Let's say they decide to call themselves something else, just as a rebrand. Just kind of, ISIS has a certain stigma with it. Let's call ourselves something else. Let's call ourselves something friendly, like the
They're
flowers.
already doing that. They're saying it's like the new Taliban. It's
Yeah, that's right.
They're trying
they
to
have
sell
more, now they're more
God help our
fortified than even
nation.
after 9/11.
Indeed,
We
Kramer.
basically, and also the Afghans were trained by our military, on pretty advanced tactics. And the Taliban has a special forces group now. There was some videos of that today where they have, basically all the same gear that our special forces guys have. I'm sure they're not trained up quite as well, but they've learned our tactics, and some of those people are going to turn sides, and we're double agents to begin with, so they'll train the terrorists on those tactics, and it'll be used against us, unfortunately.
And we have
in my
the
opinion.
most lucid border administration in right now, right? So, what's going to happen with that? Remember
Yeah.
all those attacks we were seeing randomly?
Yeah, imagine what's coming across the border right now. I mean,
And
Probably
they're
people
saying-
with
and
those
they're coming as
guns.
they're coming as, quote, friends, right? The new Taliban. I think that's
Sure.
going to be a huge thing because they're trying to sell this. It's like,
Yeah.
We're the new Taliban. We're the friendly Taliban. Come give us a hug.
I second what Kramer says. God help our nation.
Yeah.
God help our nation is right.
Mm-hmm.
If you second it, can we have a vote? Aye.
So let's wrap up here. There's a couple of things that need to happen.
Can we play one more clip, Mike?
One more
I
clip.
mentioned there was something going on with the UFO stuff. Just today, apparently Tucker did a pretty big investigation on the UFO stuff I mentioned in the past.
Oh,
There'd be
God,
something-
I changed my mind.
I
No
knew
more.
it was UFO. I knew it.
Well, I think it's all connected, but who am I?
What are
again?
we doing?
But there's a nice little promotional video, and there's some new footage that hasn't been released yet in this video. And apparently, Tucker has a, that new show he has, Tucker Nation. I think you need a subscription for it, but he did a complete investigation over the
Why
past
can I not click
several
on
months, and it was released today. And there's going to be some unreleased things coming
Wish we'd known that.
available, so worth checking out. I think it's all connected.
Are we gonna
That's
play
all right.
this?
There's only 6 people watching now anyway, so we're at the end of the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I just want to go on record. So in the coming weeks, when this stuff really takes off,
Dude, that
Yeah.
face that he's making. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know, I
the
love
face
Tucker's
that he's
faces,
making.
yeah.
The face that he's making.
By the way,
that ought to be
segment we did
captioned.
with his encounter in the store in public. I watched that like 5 times myself because I laughed hysterically every time I watched the commentary we did where the
Yeah.
guy
Oh my
confronted him.
Oh yeah.
Was that when we dubbed over it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
Okay, can somebody in the chat, okay, somebody in the chat, please caption this face. What belong, instead of this here, this Fox News banner, what belongs as this headline? What is this guy so? I don't even know what this face is. What is he making this face for?
Well, it's one of his faces he always makes,
Potato and a necktie.
He makes faces during his interviews.
What it's okay, so it's the first frame of this video. He's like getting ready to say something or in the middle of saying something. It's like when Mo would play a video at his tavern and pause it, and he'd be making this derpy face.
Yeah, I was gonna say his face looks like it's drawn in crayon.
Right. No, I love Tucker's faces. I like watching Tucker.
Yeah, they're funny.
We'll have to
It's
invite
just
him
a
on the
mid.
show.
It's like a breath.
Yeah.
But it would be funny to see.
Listen, I've been caught on thumbnails that are not so flattering. So,
Yeah.
So it looks like Chris is going to be reaching out to Dan Holloway from Drinking Bros.
Sounds good.
Right?
Yep.
And if you don't get him on by Thursday,
Fired, right?
you're fired.
Dan Holloway.
We're gonna cut your salary in half.
From Drinking
No,
Bros. it's
fired.
called?
Drinking
Bros.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's your job.
All right. I'm
Next
putting it in the doc here.
it in the
We've got a
doc.
commitment from Russ to dress up like Santa Claus.
No.
Oh, can I take him shopping?
No.
Yes. Yes,
Wanna
we'll
take him
make a video of it. Yes, we will videotape Liberty taking Russ shopping for Santa.
No.
We're going to
not
create some kind of a special event for the Oaks show so we can ramp up participation with Toys for Tots. Russ, we also have to do a commercial for that. So don't let me
Okay.
forget about that.
All right. When does that commercial start airing? Like ASAP or?
Well, we probably want to delay it a little bit because we've got some time between when.
Is that in December?
Well, I think we probably want to start the commercials within next month and a half or so because the big show is going to be in October when people start bringing this stuff in. So.
All right. Well, okay. Here's. So this is a bit behind the scenes stuff we're getting into right now.
Yeah, a
So
little behind
why,
the scenes.
why don't
Yeah,
we
we're gonna-
why don't we
airing
get
the
it?
line.
Why don't we get a commercial ready and then we can kick it off at the show?
Okay. Well, no, we
On
want to do it
October.
before the show so people can show up to the show with the toys ready to roll. And we're going to do an on-location episode with Elite Tactical Armory. EliteTacticalArmory.com, PACommercialArmory.com. Your firearm storage solution in the Lehigh Valley.
There we go.
I think I
We're going to do
misunderstood how
a
many shows
special
favorite
episode
sponsor.
over there. And if anybody's got, well, DG gave the suggestions of we got to do one in a state prison. So
Yeah.
we'll work on that.
Kramer says, "What is Omar from Kentucky?"
Yeah. Russ is going to be Santa. Chris has got to get the guests. Anything else we need to do?
I'm not
going to the order.
Santa. I'll be the grumpy elf, like from A Christmas Story. I'll be the grumpy elf.
All right.
Hurry up, kid. The store's closing.
All right. Thank you, everybody who's stuck around. And thank you, everybody who joined us this evening.
We're not playing my clip?
No, we're just going to
I thought you said save it for next week.
Oh.
We're just going to let him sit
late.
there.
It'll be
Oh,
too
we
late.
can play it next week. Yeah, I mean, we'll play it now. We'll touch on it next week because I think it's going to be a big thing this week.
Well, it's less than 2 minutes. We can spare
Oh,
it.
go ahead.
It's not long.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Nobody go away. Don't touch that dial.
Yeah, don't touch that dial.
Here
We'll
we
be
go.
right back after these words.
Shut up. No, we won't. We're doing it now.
Yeah, we're doing it
I wish
live.
we'd known this a
Do
video.
it live.
I wish voters had known that, but government covered it up. They've also been hiding the truth about UFOs. That's true. We did a whole documentary on it for our Tucker Carlson original series. We took a look at what our leaders have been hiding. It's just out. Here's part of it.
Why would they hide stuff from us? They wouldn't do that.
When the government isn't lying about what they're seeing, they're hiding what they know.
You can see they would black out nearly everything on all of the pages. They didn't want to talk about it.
Sunshine laws give Americans the right to appeal the blacked out portions within government documents.
When I asked the NSA to do that, they mysteriously lost each and every one of the hundreds of pages that they had collected. The reality of the NSA losing all of that on UFOs is nil. That's the length that they will go to try and cover this up.
The government knows more than it's letting on, but I'm not convinced even the government have all the answers here.
Even inside the U.S. government, secrecy is the rule. After pilot Chad Underwood spotted the famous flying Tic Tac, he learned that a Navy missile cruiser nearby had been tracking it for weeks. We still have never seen that video.
How dramatic it is.
That's up tomorrow morning on Fox Nation. You can stream it then. Pretty amazing documentary, actually. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.
Yeah. So anyway.
Shut up, Sean.
See more.
If I might say so myself.
That's right. It's amazing.
Did everybody check out that interview with Robert Borelli last week? It's amazing. Absolutely fascinating. Amazing interview. Greatest
Right,
interview
that's
in
right.
the history of all interviews.
Well, this was an amazing show, if I might say.
People should definitely check out robertborelli.com and get his book.
Mhm.
Order an autograph book from Robert Borelli, The Witness. Just letting everybody know. Thank you, everybody, so much. It's great to see everybody. Love everybody. Love getting to interact with everybody. And thank you, everybody who's participated in the comments section. We got to have an in-person event soon. We got to do it because we had so much fun sitting at that table at the Oak Show. You and I and Rich, David.
Yeah.
It'd be great to have that with some of our loyal listeners. We used to do that. The first year of this program, pre-COVID, we used to do that. Have people come on in. DG, great show. There are no aliens. Good night. I'm sticking with that one. That's the closing for the program. Great
Well,
show.
I've never
All
said
right.
No
there's.
aliens. Good night.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, play us
There's
out.
something flying these craft. We'll learn more soon.
That's all the time we've got for today. Stick around for We the People, The Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. I'll be joining as your legal analyst. We miss you, Ellie. Daddy loves you.